Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, the DC Comics podcast from Mailfuss TV. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, Hammer Jam.
And Connor's here too.
Matt has more energy than me.
Matt has more energy than all of us, I think.
Not the last 2 weeks. I've been super tired and I don't know why. So yeah. My wife says it's because I'm getting old, and I say that's mean. So
it's also accurate. I mean, you are always getting older.
No, I mean that's true. I mean,
There's a difference between getting
fact.
older and getting old.
Yeah. But I've also not drinking all my coffee yet. We'll see how this day goes.
As a DC Comics podcast, we get together, we talk about the books we read. All three of the heavy hitter books this week, which is Justice League 59, the start of Bendis' run on Justice League, Nightwing 78, the start of Tom Taylor's run on Nightwing, and Catwoman 29, continuing the Ram V run that's already been going for a few issues.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the books we'll talk about. Not a lot of books, of course, but we do have June Solicits to dive into. So there's some stuff in there that will be juicy, I assume. Also, before we get started on anything, let me remind everyone to go vote on the top 50 DC characters list that is going on throughout the month of March. The deadline is the end of the month. We'll have a results special where we'll count down the results, the top 50 characters, but all you have to do is put in a top 20. You can put in a full top 50 if you wish, but all you have to do is a top 20. There's a link to the submission form in the description of the episode, but I've also been sharing it on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. You can also just ask us on that Twitter if you want a direct tweet with a link in it. We'll happily give it to you. So
yeah. Pete also forgot the most important rule. Do not put Bruce Wayne at number 1.
That's not that's not a rule. That's not a rule. No, it's not.
It's a strongly advised suggestion.
It's not a rule. If I will be saying this, I entered a nice healthy amount of the early submissions during the week, and the results so far are mighty interesting.
Are they interesting because Bruce Wayne's a number 1 to annoy Matt?
They're just there's some names that I would have thought would have done well that have barely got anything, and then there's some names that I would never have thought were going to be, scraping top 20 material that are
Psycho Pirate at
up there. So,
Kite Man at number 1. Do it.
They're clearly fans of the Harley Quinn show if they do.
Yes.
So I just super interesting.
This reminds me of the time where back in the old days in the old Facebook groups where Pete would hold top countdowns of characters for that people submitted, and I would try to game my list to try to throw the order into most disarray as I could. And Pete got wise to it and was like, look, I know what you're doing, and it's not funny, and it's messing up the list and the integrity, so please stop.
I would just like to say, Matt, it was funny.
It was funny. Then again, when I put my number 1 as the troll number 1 answer, I got pretty impressed with myself. Because no one had Cable number 1. I put Cable number 1 just to be funny.
I don't remember this, but
yes.
I will take your word for it.
You made me submit an actual. You go, all right, send me your actual list.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. I don't think I'd accounted it. I didn't know you were talking nonsense. So yeah, make sure you go do that. Obviously, that's to celebrate us hitting episode 250 next month. So do go make sure you do that. Also, it's worth mentioning, it's kind of an important week for DC in a lot of ways. That there was a certain release of sorts this week of DC material.
A release is putting it the worst way possible.
Well, I mean, much like a fart is released from your body,
yeah.
The Snyder Cut was unleashed upon the world.
I can't wait to put it on my top movie of 2021.
Hey, it was Connor's first movie of 2021.
It literally was.
Wow.
As I said, I have been reading a lot of books so far this year, like quite a lot. I've just not been watching any movies at the minute. It'll hit me again at some point in the next few months, and I'll start powering through them, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, me and Connor watched that on stream. me and Matt will be doing a commentary track for Batman v Superman Ultimate Cut. That was a goal where half the money donated was going to charity when we did the stream for the Snyder Cut. So that happened this week. So some good came of it, which is nice.
Yeah. So thanks to all the regulars that pop into those streams for making that happen. So, but now the double-edged sword is I have to watch a movie I swore I'd never watch again.
I would like to point out that when Matt suggested, because this was all Matt's idea, when Matt suggested this, I said, oh, it should probably be the Ultimate Cut just because I've never seen the Ultimate Cut. And Matt just quietly and very ashamedly went, I own it.
You know, because when your wife hasn't seen it and Target has it for sale for like $6 on Blu-ray, it's easier than renting it.
Oh, is it easier? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a well thought out
I
excuse.
love that this implies that he looked into renting it. It was like, yeah, I'll just buy it.
Well, so the long story short on that one is I was supposed to wait for people to go see it at the theater, but I was like, no, just like I did with this one. I wanted to bleed the poison as fast as possible. So I was not waiting for everybody. So I went on my own and went, I'm not doing this again. When it came out, she was curious enough to know if it was as bad as I had said. So, yeah.
Well,
Tell you what, it wasn't 4 hours. I'll give you that.
yes, the 4-hour cut. There will be a review of sorts as well going up probably by the end of the weekend as well, which I mean, I imagine it may even be kind of similar timeline wise to when this episode goes public. So look out for that. Although that's with a different cast of people because these two have refused to review the Snyder Cut. We do have June Solicits to talk about though, so to get into some actual DC comic book shenanigans, we got some solicitations for June, which DC for some reason threw out on a random like Wednesday instead of the usual Friday. I don't know why, but they did. So here we are. I will just mention, I'm not going to talk about them, but there's like 6 issues of Batman Fortnite or something at the top of these solicits. No one cares. Go away.
Do you know what you say that? Twitter cares. Twitter cares about these issues.
I don't care if Twitter cares. I don't care. I don't care if Twitter cares. We're not spending time talking about a Batman Fortnite crossover.
You might have to if it comes back.
No, I won't. I will happily forever ignore anything to do with Fortnite. Thank you very much.
Pete, have you ever played Fortnite?
I am happy to say I have not.
Do you know what I will say about Fortnite? I mean, I have one positive thing I could say about it, but that's not what I'm going to say here. I played it like once or twice back, near the start of it, and I was like, all right, it's not for me. But it was free, so I thought I might as well check it out. I watched a video of someone playing it the other day. Holy shit, that game is not what it was. It's like there's a fishing mini game in there now. Like there's like all sorts of random nonsense that it's like every game ever made. They just threw all into one. They just keep adding to it.
Well, you got to keep the people going back,
Well, yeah, that's kind of what they were doing by adding in. Well, DC heroes. I'm assuming is either happening now or coming up very soon.
Didn't they do Star Wars stuff too at one point?
Yeah, they did the whole. At the start of Rise of Skywalker, the in the text crawl it mentions Palpatine's message. That was in Fortnite. Like you can watch that. You could have watched that message by playing Fortnite at the time. Like it's bizarre. Like what a. It's not a game anymore. It's a platform.
Connor.
Yeah.
Did you watch Palpatine's message on Fortnite?
I actually didn't know because I did not play Fortnite. I was like, I'm not doing it. But I know it was there.
I could not be less interested in this conversation right now.
I did not know it was a full platform weird, Oh
yeah, it's
all this weird stuff.
It's become digital like corporate land where a bunch of properties go to advertise their thing.
Someone say the other day, it's as close to the Oasis from Ready Player One as we're probably ever going to see, and it kind of is.
It's not a good thing.
I didn't say it was, but it's interesting.
Not a good thing. To hell with it. All right. So can we talk about actual DC Comics? Can we do that?
What?
rather than going down
Solicits.
rather than going down stupid tangents about Fortnite, please. Infinite Frontier issue 1. We kind of already obviously talked about this because this was in the advanced things last week. But yeah, 40 page, $5. This is the Williamson and Zermanico mini / event. I don't know if it's quite event level. I guess it probably is.
Yeah, I would say so, based that it's taking off from the Infinite Frontier 0, right? Much more
kind of eventy.
Yeah, much more focused than sprawling. So
yeah, it's kind of eventy, but it also feels kind of. It almost feels like a quieter book before the event book actually happens to me for some reason, and I think that's just because it's following this group of characters, try to find out what Darkseid's doing and what these worlds mean, and all that stuff.
This is like the road to whatever the next event is.
Yeah. Like, because I feel like the big bombastic event where the universe, the multiverse is at stake, and the Justice League have to band together. I don't think that's happening in this book. I feel like this is building up to whatever that is.
Yeah.
But which is not a complaint. I mean, I'm happy for them to build up to it. It's an interesting cast of characters they got in there, of course, as well. Just looking at that cover, very interesting. So, yes, very neat, very neat. Yeah, and Justice Incarnate. Darkseid, well, buzzwords. Roy Harper's alive. Roy Harper's not dead, so that's exciting.
More on Roy Harper in the next book.
Yeah, well, there's also a one-shot coming out called Infinite Frontier Secret Files, issue 1. This is an 80-page, $10 anthology-style book, which I'll just read the text rather than speculate anything. Are you ready for the new Infinite Frontier series? Do you have the lowdown and all the characters? If not, this print edition of the digital first Secret File series. So is this already happened, or is it not happened yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. We'll tell you everything you're dying to know. Take a look inside Director Bone's personal database. Oh, so that's their framing device, is it? For stories focusing on Jade and Obsidian, the children of the original Green Lantern, Psycho Pirate, the scourge of many a crisis on many an Earth. That's a funny sentence, I'll give them that. President Superman, the multiverse's ultimate beacon of hope, Roy Harper back from the dead, and Just Who Are the Totality. Featuring 6 stories in print for the first time. So this will be available to read in chapters digitally before this comes out.
What's interesting is, given the size of it and how it is very much just his 6 separate stories, this might read better digitally rather than like one big slog.
I mean, it's 80 pages, it's 6 stories. Yeah, it actually might work out to be about 6 full-size 20-page books.
Well, no.
13.3, so I just did the math.
Yeah,
okay.
So six full size is like 120.
That's a good point, yes. Okay.
But I mean, even so, like, because they're entirely like one-shot stories, even as digital first.
Look, I've not been awake for very long. I had to start an hour earlier. I'm still not woken up, right? My brain's not functioning, okay?
It's not that, Pete. It's your... I don't say your rivalry, but what was it called? Where you're just complete opposite, like, you wanting just the opposite of Connor's, you almost wanted to argue the math, but you're like, no, the math checks out. I can't. Adversarial. That's the word I was looking for. Your adversarial relationship with Connor.
I'll say we're not yet on the level of Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. One day.
Oh my god, that meme was fantastic.
I love that there, bro. You know the.
Can we not tangent into something else that I have no knowledge of, please?
One little fun fact. You know the lamppost in Narnia. There's the one electric lamppost in the fantasy world, and it's like quite an iconic thing in that series.
They met Professor X.
Oh yes, the one lamppost. Yes, that one famous lamppost that everyone knows about.
It is pretty famous and iconic in those books. It literally only exists because Tolkien wrote a paper saying that electric lighting shouldn't exist in fantasy world, and C.S. Lewis went, "Well, screw you then."
All right, which one of you is C.S. Lewis and which one of you is Tolkien?
I feel like I probably have to be C.S. Lewis because I'm like, screw it, let's do it, and Pete wants the rules.
Oh, so Pete doesn't like Tolkien. So...
Yeah, but I hate Lord of the Rings though, so
it's irrelevant to this context. It's about the personality.
That's so funny. This is
Oh,
really gonna piss him off. I'm gonna put a like post.
Yeah,
oh dear.
that's the equivalent of me going, let's talk about Fortnite for 5 minutes just to piss Pete off.
Would you
So the
believe
Secret
it?
Files book,
Would you believe it? I am the one who doesn't, before we start recording, try to say let's try and keep this episode short, and then Connor proceeds to go on tangents about Fortnite, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien. Right?
Hey, that was a good tangent. That was a good fun fact that everyone should know.
There is
Irony?
I mean, perhaps an irony, but there's a disconnection between the two things that just isn't quite marrying up, right? There's a disconnect, and it's a bit weird, and I'm just trying to keep my cool. Like I say, Matt's stupid country's daylight savings kicked in 2 weeks before ours, so I had to
that's a bitch.
my
spring to
stupid
action.
country ruining my entire. I look outside and I think I have a lot more time, and I look and it's already 7:30 and the sun's still up. Oh, makes me so mad.
I thought I was making good time. I only had Justice League left. I thought, oh, I've got an hour to read this, and then Connor's like, oh, right, is it ready to start? I'm like, wait, what? I've got an hour. Damn it.
You had an hour, and then my country was like daylight savings time.
Oh dear. Anyway, so Infinite Frontier Secret Files. This is going to be a long solicits. Go win this track record so far. Hashtag blame Connor. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Again, obviously this got an early solicit. Oh, is that Gary Frank covering you though?
That is.
Yeah.
Hello.
I mean, but like, it's weird, but I'm still about that Evilly cover. I mean, I love Gary Frank, don't get me wrong.
I mean, I like both of them.
I mean, the Evilly cover's
great
nice, but I have to admit, my heart does maybe lean towards the Gary Frank one. That said, never discount a good gradient, because that blue gradient cover is...
Yeah, the
That
blank.
really annoys me because the blank cover, and I like blank covers because you know the idea of or you get commissions drawn on them.
Mm-hmm.
Make it white. Just make it white with a nice thick stock.
Yeah, but like,
draw.
as someone that frames their signed comics or whatever, having a signed commission on that blue gradient, it would make it stick out.
Yeah, I think the gradient's fine. I think this is a nice spin on the blank variant.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, if they start doing like zigzag patterns and stuff, yeah, it's over complex.
Yeah.
But I think a nice simple gradient that corresponds to the theme of the character is a nice touch. Kind of like, did Marvel do like a black cover so that if you get it drawn, you have to get it drawn in white? I'm pretty sure that was one of the things they did. Do like a black blank cover for a book. I think that's something.
I
they did.
mean, I can't say for sure either way. I never saw it, but I mean, it's not a stupid idea to have seen.
No, I think it's fine. So yeah, so obviously we're looking forward to this. This is Tom King's. Although I mean I knew it was Tom King anyway, but the formatting on this CBR solicits, and we're only looking at CBR instead of Newsarama because for some reason Newsarama made a complete mess of their solicits post this month. But they're written by Tom King that isn't formatted properly and is in a tiny font at the top of it, and you can barely see it.
Do you know what? I looked over that even when you were starting saying that it doesn't say written by Tom King there because I noticed that then I was looking for it. My eyes just went over that every time. I just didn't see that tiny line. I just thought they'd forgot to put it in.
It's just clearly it's just a slight formatting snafu, but hey ho. Obviously, yeah, Tom King miniseries, good stuff. Supergirl getting some spotlight, doing some stuff in space. These are all things that we typically like. I mean, Connor tends to like less things, but
yeah, but it's built receivably, so.
Yes. Who did that okay issue of Wonder Woman that one time?
Okay, I'll fight you right now, sir.
Hey, if nothing else, Matt, the Snyder Cut did have more bear fights in it than the theatrical cut.
It had a bear fighting a bull.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. How did I miss that?
Not in the real world. It was in like the sort of digital nightmare world.
Gotcha. Okay.
The cyborg was in at one point. But
that's right.
technically, there was a bear and a bull fighting at one point.
I think that was meant to represent the stock market, stupidly. because he's in that
I feel like I just pulled the most quizzical face ever. Because
No, you guys laugh, but you've heard of bear markets and bull markets, right?
sure, but
No, it's a Wall Street thing. So I'm sure.
I get that. I did not get that in context.
Yeah. Well, now you did. So go back and watch it.
Graphic novels. Whistle, a Gotham City Hero, by E. Lockhart, and then art by Manuel Pritano.
A new Gotham City hero.
Sorry, a new Gotham City Hero. 17-year-old Willow Zimmerman. That appears to be the focus here. It's a young adult graphic novel. It's kind of going along with these things. So you have that. We talked about this last week as well. The DC Pride one shot, which they've done similar things before, but this is makes sense. 80-page book. Creators from the LGBT community, and a bunch of stories based on a bunch of characters that you would kind of expect.
Yeah, I bet. I won't know. I'll just say I thought it was really interesting. They got the actress from the Supergirl show to write her version of Dreamer for the first time. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, it was a neat touch.
Two, we got three things. Two, variant covers. That Bartel cover is absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And then three, I bet DC are glad they announced this a week early, because in comparison to the rest of the solicits, because Marvel solicits, for whatever weird reason happened this week, Marvel solicits already came out before DC's, and they have a Pride one shot as well in theirs. But because DC announced theirs early, it's like they got all the headlines about it.
I didn't even know Marvel was doing one until you just said something. So
right, it's in their solicits. Yeah.
I'm shockingly good at not paying attention to Marvel solicits, and every so often I'm like, oh, what's Marvel been doing recently? And I'll go check the last couple. But
I tend to skim through them. I want to see, like, most of the time I want to see what Star Wars books are coming out that month, and they're usually buried right at the bottom. A new Predator book coming, Pete.
I think
their Alien book starts like next week.
I did see there's a new Predator book. I have no opinion on Ed Brisson, the writer.
I've read a couple of things. I mean, hit or miss.
Okay.
He hasn't been on anything I really love, so I don't have a strong opinion.
Who's doing the Alien book?
I don't remember, but I mean, it's coming out in the next week or two, so you'll be able to check on League Comic Geeks.
Okay. And then the miniseries that was sort of tied to that a little bit was Crusher and Lobo, which is also coming out. It's an 8-issue miniseries. Surprisingly, I did not realize that it was Mariko Tamaki that was writing that, with Anki and Hilpin on the art.
Yeah, that made me slightly more interested in it than I ever was before.
Slightly. This is one of these things where I care about creators more than I do characters, but there's some characters that I'm so disinterested in that it's like, okay, I guess I'll try it.
Yeah. Like when I just saw it last week, when it was, I don't know if they gave us the actual team last week or just, this is coming, by the way.
I don't remember them giving us a team, but...
No, I don't either, but this was also one of the ones that was in that...
it was in that full list at the retailer event. Yeah.
Which, to be fair, this is the only one out of that list of like 11 books that's actually sort of materialized in a real solicit.
To be fair, they did tell us it would be over the year that those were launching.
Yeah, the point I'm making though is that there's a lot left, and that there's still other new books that weren't in that list that are being announced. So
it's true. Yeah, which means we might have a very healthy lineup come the end of the year.
Very possibly. So yes, so that's coming out. This is a $5 book. What's interesting?
First issue is
It says cardstock variant $4.99, but then it says the regular price is $4.99. So that's a bit surprising.
Yeah. Also, the team variant cover is $4.99. So yeah, that's.
I wonder if it's a typo. Potentially.
It doesn't mention the actual page count.
Look at the actual main cover. It says $3.99 on the cover itself.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
So I'm going to assume it's a $3.99 book, and that's a typo.
Yeah. The cardstock being $1 more is normal. That's just, they've been doing that for ages, but. Okay. Next thing is the graphic novel Poison Ivy Thorns, written by Cody Keplinger and art by Sarah Kippen.
They're doing a gothic horror twist. I'm pretty interested in this.
I might have to pick this up.
Truth and Justice issue 5's coming out. There's a new printing. This is weird that some of the trades are popping up here, but Batwoman Elegy is getting a new printing, but they've got Ruby Rose from the show on the cover, which I hate. I hate when books do that. I hate the.
Well, the fact she's not even there anymore. So,
I mean, yeah, but in principle, I hate when they put like actors and stuff on the cover of a
I
book.
hate again, like film covers of books.
I don't mind it as much when it's like the Jurassic Park logo being the cover of the book doesn't bother me too much because it's just the logo. But see if it was like Sam Neill and like Goldblum and they're like sort of like, hey, like I'm like, no, piss off.
Yeah,
I would buy it just for that.
I bet you would.
Get a really thick frame and put it in
I really want the Folio Society edition of Jurassic Park that they've just put out, and oh man, looks so nice.
Yes. Okay, apparently there's a bunch of trades here. So Suicide Squad Bad Blood is the Tom Taylor run. All in one book seemingly, which is cool.
Yeah. This is a weirdly late solicit because this is coming out like next month.
That's a bit odd. Harley Quinn Breaking Glass.
It's just a paperback printing. We've already had the hardcover.
Already had the hardcover. Tamaki. Another graphic novel. You Brought Me the Ocean.
Same again.
Brought me?
Just a paperback printing.
Yeah. Did I say it wrong?
Did you say broke or brought?
I
thought you said broke as well.
I said it quickly, I guess, but sorry, yeah.
Gotcha.
You brought me the ocean. I like the idea of breaking the ocean, though. All right, back on some comics. Batman Reptilian, which we talked about last week. Don't worry, Connor. I told everyone you were disappointed that Ennis was writing it, but
so disappointed.
I'm excited. I think this looks good. I'm so into it, and plus more Black Label books, and we got some news on Black Label as a whole actually after the solicits to come. So some cool stuff. But yes, Batman Reptilian #1, Ennis and Sharp, really cool stuff. Batman The Adventures Continue, Season 2, so this is more of the animated series continuing book with Alan Burnett and Paul Dini writing, art by Ty Templeton.
The horrible Rosmo cover.
With the horrible Rosmo cover, yes. Which is funny because you think the art's supposed to try and feel as much as possible like the animated series, but I guess after a while it's hard to keep finding artists to keep doing that.
I mean, there's cover art. You can have the same one do all of them if you really want.
Yeah, but it becomes a tad repetitive, and on a book like this, you kind of want to showcase. So, I get it. It's Rosmo.
Yeah. Checkmate. Obviously, this was something that was supposed to come out a while ago. Event Leviathan Checkmate's the full title. The cover just says Checkmate, though, so I don't know if they're even bothering with the whole thing. But obviously, this is Bendis and Malieve. At least me and Matt are looking forward to this.
Uh-huh.
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I'm definitely not.
I'm pumped. Also, something else we talked about last week, which is Green Arrow 80th Anniversary Special One-Shot with a bunch of creators doing a bunch of stories. A lot of names you expect, some surprisingly new. That
Gary Frank variant as well.
Yes. Obviously names you expect like Benjamin Percy, Mike Grell, but also names that are kind of new, like Tom Taylor. I don't think's done much Green Arrow, for example. So cool. A lot of great artists as well. So yeah, that's a 96-page one-shot. But we have typically done these anniversary one-shots because of specials. I think what's interesting, and I said this last week, but I'll just reiterate here, is that this doesn't have an ongoing book to sort of lead a story into. So maybe it'll tie in more to Justice League. But that said, there's no Bendis. There's no Bendis story, or maybe Checkmate, but also Bendis.
What I will say is, I think we kind of mentioned this. What was the other special they announced? Not this one. Before the Pride, there was one last month.
It was the Asian.
Yes.
One.
Yes. And I remember saying at the time, like, I'm much more willing to read those because at least like they've got a purpose. They're spotlighting something that needs the representation. They say with the Pride one here, whereas these 80th anniversary, I'm like, you can do these every 5 years, and the Pro. I'm kind of like, I'm a bit bored of just all his one character for 96 pages. I'm much more interested in the other ones that have got more variety in them.
I get it, but like this. For one, there's no Green Arrow book, so it's actually a bit more welcoming, I think, because of that.
Yeah, and this has a murderer's row of creators on both art and writing.
It does, yeah. So,
you say this could be done every 5 years, but technically speaking, like the Pride one-shot can be done every year.
It could, but the fact is they haven't done those every year.
Yeah, but they may now.
No, I mean,
it may join the Halloween, the Christmas, and the Valentine's
if
like
it leads
yearly
to showcasing more creators, though, that's probably a good thing.
Oh, that's a good thing. I'm more just nitpicking at you comparing it to this than I am
I
existing.
do like them doing both if it's not a packed week.
Oh sure.
Like,
Well, what,
As long
worth
as you're
me-
not dropping them on the same week, put them out. I don't care.
well, worth mentioning is a fifth week
Yeah.
in June, so this Green Arrow one sits nicely on that fifth week when there's obviously always going to be less books than usual.
Yeah, there's,
So
there's a handful of annuals. I'm sure we'll get to those, but
yeah. But that's neat. That's neat. So I'm excited about this. I never got Cora's opinion on this last week, but The Nice House on the Lake, the James Tynion Black Label horror book with Alvaro Martinez on the art.
yeah, I did not look at the premise. It was Tynan. It was Martinez Bueno on the art. I was like, yeah, I'm in.
We did look at the premise and it sounds good, but I kind of agree that I was already in before I even looked at the premise.
Like it was just on the creative team alone. I was like, yeah, I'm on board. It just
Yeah.
and they're doing a horror book at Black Label. I was like, that was enough for me, frankly.
Yeah, and then we have some annuals to look at here, and they're changing their annual format, actually. They're doing what Boom Comics and a few other publishers have been doing for a while, which is they're not going to number their annuals anymore. They're actually just naming them by year, which actually makes a lot more sense, because one of the things about looking at annuals in past runs is that you'll see, Action Comics annual number 1, but they've rebooted Action Comics a couple of times, and they've restarted the annual numbers, so it's like, okay, which one do you mean? So at least Action Comics 2021 annual, there is no doubt what that means.
Where it's at. Yep.
We know what it is. So that's cool. And as the regular writer, Johnson is doing this with art by Sia Om. I'm probably butchering that name, so apologies if I am. But the House of L stuff is tying into this annual, so you're getting a one shot effectively about some of those characters.
And it says it connects to Warworld Rising, which is the ongoing story in I think it's in Action, right?
The backup, yeah.
No, I don't think that's the backup. I think Warworld Rising is the name of the main story going on in Action after this
is it?
month.
Okay, well, I wasn't actually expected it to be completely disconnected and meaningless, but
yeah.
But
also, there is a typo or a miscommunication in the solicit text, because they mention Brandon's relationship with Theander and says, "Prepare for some romance." He's like, "Don't worry, they're two different sentences essentially. It's not getting weird."
oh sure, yes,
Because wasn't Theander his daughter?
His daughter, yeah.
Yeah.
Johnson was like, "There's a miscommunication. It didn't get fixed. Please stop panicking."
So it's basically like, hey, this is Theander's origin story because this is how her dad met her mom.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. Hopefully, this one has much less King Arthur parallels to talk about, because I really don't want to have to listen to that again.
How you enjoy Once Future?
Yeah.
Shut up. Catwoman 2021 annual. Next, also out in that last week, of course. Very pretty variant on that one. Nice and moody.
It reminds me of Sandman or Starman. Those covers.
Yeah,
I can see that. It's got that painted quality to it.
Sharp cover, right?
I think so.
Yeah, it's sharp.
Yeah, because the other one's Kyle Hots.
Did he color that himself? Is he the one that's doing these painted?
I think so. He's been experimenting with a bit on that Green Lantern run.
Because it looks a bit different than his normal art, where it's just regular
if
coloring.
You want to see different to his normal art, go on Comixology and go to Green Lantern Season 2, Issue 3, and look at just the first few pages in the preview. Wildly different.
Yeah, so this is so as worth mentioning, these annuals, like, have they always been $6 or were they used to be $5?
They used to be $4.99, so this is just
that feels like they've up in price a little bit. Now annuals obviously aren't that constant, so it's not that huge a deal, but it is worth mentioning, just in pointing that out. But yeah, so this is Ram V. So this again, well, I assume it'll feel fairly like separate in the sense that an annual should feel a little bit separate from the main issue, but it is the main writer, so it will tie to the run.
Reading the solicit text, it seems to be about Father Valley. So it talks about his connection to Azrael. That's going to be in there. So I think it'll be expanding on the main run, given that he's a main character, kind of. But
well, that's what I mean. The same with the House of L stuff. Annuals, when they're written by the writer who's doing the ongoing run, I expect something that ties into the main story and is relevant. But it's effectively, I expect when like a TV show will do like a flashback episode or something like that, where they'll focus in on a character. So it feels a little bit. So it doesn't just feel like issue, something 0.5. It actually feels like a kind of a separate chapter, but related. Flash 2021 annual is the next one. Again, it's the ongoing writer Jeremy Adams, who's on there, and then
it's a little bit different where this is literally just the next part of the story. It's actually the conclusion of the story, so you do need this one if you're reading that Flash book.
Yeah, I wouldn't begrudge them too much because I do see the appeal of saying, "Hey, that oversized book we get to do the annual. Can we make that the finale to our arc, so it can be like a supersized finale?" I kind of get the appeal of doing it that way.
Makes it feel a little special.
And it's not called an annual, but it effectively is. Teen Titans Academy Yearbook 2021. Again, it's the ongoing writer Tim Sheridan.
I've just seen the Roy Harper Academy is what they called it. That's a bit awkward, given that he's like not dead anymore.
Yeah.
They don't know that though.
No.
He's going to show up halfway through the run, and they're all going to be like, "Wait a minute, we named this school after you bastard."
the school I work at, its namesake was around for quite a few years.
Yeah, I was going to say, Matt, don't name it.
No. They would show up occasionally and make a big deal about it, and they still have a parking spot that no one's allowed to park in, even though the person is passed 6 years ago.
I mean, I went to Catholic school, so all mine were named after like saints or famous bishops and stuff from the area.
Imagine them walking through the doors. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah, that'd be scary.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's basically an annual. I mean, they're not calling it that, but it's an annual.
They're just having some fun with the title, but it's an annual.
Yeah.
So that's what, 4 annuals? Yeah. So that's a healthy amount of annuals for a month with a 5th week. Yeah, we got Wonder Woman Black and Gold adding to this, two-tone color kind of anthology style book that Batman Black and White started a long time ago, but it came back. So now we have Superman Red and Blue, we have Harley Quinn Black, Red and White, or whatever it's called, and and then we got Wonder Woman Black and Gold coming in June. So
I noticed a Marvel side copy as well because they had a Wolverine one that was like, I think it was like black and white and red as well. But the idea, it's all blood for Wolverine.
Blood.
Yeah.
I don't know, the colours I think of Wolverine are blue and yellow, but whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, when I was talking to my comic guy about Superman Red and Blue, he was like, "Oh, that's usually a Marvel thing to do with the colors, and it's Loeb and Sale." I was like, "Yeah, this is a little bit different though. Like this is a whole."
Yeah, because that wasn't.
Those are complete stories,
Yeah, and that also wasn't like tied completely to just using the color through. I mean, it was obviously heavily featured, but it wasn't.
Wasn't a hard and fast rule.
Yeah. Injustice Year Zero, the complete collection hardcover, Tom Taylor. Chapters 1 to 14 included. There you go. Wonder Woman 8 Years of the Amazon Warrior, Deluxe Edition hardcover. So that's kind of like when the Action Comics hit 1,000, they had that hardcover that went along with it. Yeah.
I hate these ones more than anything else because they don't give you anything, do they?
Oh, I didn't see this before. Space Jam, A New Legacy. 144-page book.
It's an adaptation of the film.
So I guess they're trying to time this. I suppose now that they're releasing everything on HBO Max, they know that it's going to come out. So
they can now.
I guess,
go for it.
Yes. I can't wait to see how much of a mess Space Jam 2 is.
I saw someone tweet what the actual premise of that movie was. And holy shit, I did not realize it was that.
It was a bit wackier than I was expecting. I don't even remember it that well, but it was like social media was involved.
It was basically like traveling through various things on like a streaming service. So think like how Wreck-It Ralph is like traveling through the internet or like the games. It's like that except through HBO Max basically.
With LeBron James and has nothing to do with basketball.
I assume him and Bugs Bunny are together though as they're going through all these various properties.
Yeah, I'm assuming so.
Because it's not Space Jam if Bugs Bunny and maybe some of the other Looney Tunes are around. So
yeah.
I mean, this cover does have them holding basketball, so maybe they do play basketball eventually.
It does also say it's not the final cover.
Oh, well, someone made a cover, even if it's a Tem cover. They made a cover where they're both holding basketballs. They're in basketball jerseys,
yeah,
it's true.
One of my favorite things came out is all the nerds being mad about Lola Bunny. And I'm like, we've reached peak internet, guys.
What were they mad about?
They've redesigned her. It's just not as hot anymore, apparently.
She's a rabbit.
Yeah.
She's a cartoon rabbit.
Yeah. Well, that's the internet for you.
Oh, is this like when Final Fantasy Remake first showed off Tifa and there was like nerds everywhere going, our boobs aren't big enough. They did load their boobs.
Pretty much.
Almost spot on.
That's pretty pathetic. All right, so more actual comics here. Superman Action Comics issue 1032. I said that weird because I was under the cover where it says Superman first. Yeah, not much to say really. It's still coming out. American Vampire 1976 issue 9. So that's still trucking along. Batman 109 continuing the run. I don't necessarily love that variant cover, but I do kind of appreciate the colors on it, if that makes sense. I don't even know if you get my sentiment there, but there's something about it I like, even if I don't like it overall. It's a weird one.
It's like the vividness, right? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
I think with slightly better line work, I'd love that cover.
But I think it's supposed to be like where they're melding into each other.
Yeah, that's a sort of dreamlike.
I think maybe that's the color choice. I don't know. Because I'm sure the black and white version looks great. Yeah, the bats look good on it though. The bats flying around. Yeah. Batman is the Detective issue 3. That's the 6-issue mini by Tom Taylor, of course. So we're excited to try that when it hits. Batman Urban Legends issue 4. And after it stole the show last week with that fantastic Red Hood story, I hate to say it. I'm actually. Wait, did you not like the Red Hood story, Connor?
No, I mean it was fun. I don't think I loved it as much as you two did. I haven't listened to what you said. I don't think I loved it quite as much as you two. But I mean, I didn't have any problems with it. Okay. I will say, because now you guys have actually, properly experienced this Red Hood outfit that was brought about, I don't know, about a year ago, whenever it was, with probably 2 years ago now, with the redesign. I remember at the time when it came out, going through it with you guys and talking about just the half mask on the bottom and saying, "Oh, this is stupid. That won't disguise him much." I take it all back. After a year of everyone wearing masks, it does way more than you think.
Yeah.
I just I want to apologize for that comment I made. That was ignorance.
Yeah, there's a Tim Drake story starting in this one, by the looks of it. What are you laughing at?
Just that transition. You're apologizing. You're like, yeah. So Tim Drake.
No, I will say I was really excited when I read Tim Drake story, and then I saw it's the person who did the Robin Eternal issues, Future State, and I got really disappointed.
Oh well. Yeah. There's also a Luke Fox story, written by the actor as well. To go with that theme, the actor from the Batwoman show who plays Luke Fox is writing a Luke Fox story.
Oh shit! Luke Fox is on Batwoman.
Yeah, he's been there since the pilot.
Start. Yeah,
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, he's kind of the guy in the computer talking to her.
Gotcha.
He's that character.
I mean, that's an appropriate role for a Luke Fox character.
Oh yeah, it's not complete. I'm more critiquing that every CW show has to have that character.
Oh yeah.
Oh, to be fair, Superman's avoided it thus far. Superman and Lois has avoided that trope so far. I'm glad we all agree. Batman Superman issue 19. Next, so that's going on.
This looks fun.
Lupacino art in there. Was she been on?
Yeah, buddy.
I'm really disappointed that I don't really enjoy Yang's writing because this looks like I should love it.
Oh, it sucks to be Connor. I mean, between Sharp on a new Ennis Batman book and this.
Yeah, on this you have 4 different artists, so I'm sure it's cycling through different things. But you got Lupacino, Steve Lieber, Derek Robertson, and Kyle Oates.
The first line of the text talks about multiple realities, so clearly every reality is going to have a different artist, and that's fine. Like that's obviously thought out. Catwoman issue 32 is next. Ooh, I mean I don't love the face, but I do like seeing the old purple and gloves costume.
I mean, you don't like the face.
I mean, it's all right. It's a bit, I don't know, I'm a bit off about it.
Weird. I just on the solicit text here, I thought it was really interesting. I don't know if you've been doing it on all of them because I've not been looking, but you threw in like at the end of the Proverbs 25:2.
Oh, I don't know.
Which is obviously very in keeping with Father Valley, who goes around quoting the Bible quite a lot. But yes. I was like, oh, what is that one? And I was just to see if it had any relevance to what was happening. And it's just it is the glory of God to conceal a matter, to search out a matter is the glory of kings. I'm like, okay, so some sort of investigation, maybe. Always teasing.
Challenges of the Super Sun still being reprinted. Obviously, there was digital first, so issue 3 of that's coming out. Crime Syndicate issue 4, a book which I imagine we'll not be touching because we didn't like the first issue. But that is there, that's coming out. So maybe, obviously we got a lot of the advanced things of the new stuff last week. Probably the juiciest thing to come out of these Solicits is that there's actually 3 books that are double shipping in June. So, which I'm not actually that mad about, mainly just because, there's less books right now, so a few of them double shipping isn't like a huge deal.
It feels like a strange choice when we've just kind of put it to bed and we're like, we're not doing double shipping anymore.
Yeah. Especially for the books that only have, or the characters rather, that only have one book. Obviously, this first one that we're mentioning here, Detective Comics, is the notable exception to that because, Batman has several books, not just 2. He has several books, but Detective Comics is double shipping in June, but it's still Tamaki, and John Ridley's doing the backup. Well, in the first one at least. Which is cool. So.
And that's like 4 fantastic covers for these 2 books.
Yeah, the variant for the second one for 1038 specifically, I really like
the Mayo one. I really like the standard cover for 1037, the Dan Mora one. I think that's gorgeous. We should mention though, Dan Mora is not on art anymore for this book, which we kind of always knew it was only going to be off and on because he's off to go back and do more Once and Future. So we got Bogdanovich is the new regular artist.
Yeah, I saw him tweeting about it on Twitter that his run, because he called it his, it's not his run from scratch, but the idea that his time on the book is starting in June.
Yeah.
So.
And we like Bogdanovich, so.
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be curious to see, because as far as I know, they've not made an official sort of announcement saying this is a policy change where now we're doing double shipping. It's just, so I'm curious to see, will these books still be double shipping next, the following month? Is this going to be a little bit more like some of Marvel books where some months they'll be single, some they'll be double, and it's okay either way. It's just whatever the schedules sort of led them to. But I'm looking forward to this run. Obviously, we've not had the first issue of Tamaki's Detective yet, but I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm going to be into it. So that's cool. Far Sector issue 12. Finally, Far Sector ends after about 2.5 years or whatever it's been to get to that point. But that's coming out in June. Future State Gotham, of course, issue 2. That's the book where we're going to be cycling through different stories from Future State universe.
Yeah, I think it's still like a 6-issue Red Hood story first, though, right?
It is, yeah. So issue 2 is still the Red Hood story, and it's Williamson and Dennis Culver who are writing, with Giannis Milionanis. No, yeah, Giannis Milionanis. Yes, I remember that name. How to say that name at some point. But no, so neat, and surprisingly, Red Hood's been on a bit of a roll with good stories since Future State kicked in. So
yeah, and this is the Future State team as well, especially with the artist back on that. So no reason to worry, right?
Yeah, no reason to be concerned. And he's got is that like a? I mean, it's probably just a bike, but it kind of the cover. It looks kind of like a snowmobile that he's got. It's not, but it looks kind of like a snowmobile on the cover.
It's just the same bike he was on the definitely not Akira bike.
That's what I was gonna say. Very reminiscent of Akira.
Yeah,
but it's making me want a chase in this, in the snow now. I want a snowmobile chase and a bat book. Thank you. Green Lantern issue 3. Still a big question mark on this one as to how we're going to like it, but obviously that's still coming out. I do like the characters that it's focused on and given time to. It's just a question if the writing of that Future State issue is going to be indicative of how we feel about it. Hopefully not, but we'll see. Harley Quinn issue 4 coming out. I'm sure that obviously some of the books have Pride variants, and I feel like the one for Harley here, Connor would like to gush over for a second.
The Chris Anka one, yeah, I've already tweeted about it. I mean, I love pretty much everything Chris Anka draws. It's so good. But yeah, no, this is spectacular.
The next book that's double shipping in June is Justice League. I actually really like that main cover for the first one here, 62. Just the hands and for the
Yeah.
It's a good cover.
Yeah, it's a really simple
Hands
idea,
in.
but it's nice. Yeah.
Very team building.
In fact, the main cover for the Fallen issue 63 is very. It's not actually this, but it's reminding me of the start of Superman the movie with the heads and the
Talking heads. In
the trial.
prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's making me think of all the.
Oh no.
All it's missing is those like rings around Black Adam and Naomi.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
a bit of a silvery glow.
It's very funny. So it's still Ramview on the backup, Dangerously Dark, still Bendis in the main book, of course. And Marquez is doing art on both.
Yeah, he's still on both, and Zamanico's still on the backup art for both. Although I imagine that will have to change in the relatively near future, given that Zamanico's doing the art for Infinite Frontier, right?
Yeah. So I imagine that's going to change. I also imagine that Marquez is going to, once he's done with this arc, is going to be off an arc because, given that clearly he's ahead because they're double shipping with two
Right,
books that
and
he did.
he's not
but,
the fastest artist in the world anyway.
yeah, so I assume that after the last issue of this arc, which might be, it is, yeah, the trial of Naomi commences. So this second issue here in the month is the last issue of the arc. And Matt's face just lit up, hearing that title.
What makes you say, wait? What makes you say that's the last issue?
Oh, commences. Oh, sorry, I'm like reading the wrong meaning of the word. Sorry.
Yeah,
You read it as concludes.
I
didn't
did. I read it as concludes. Sorry.
No, I was scrolling ahead and I got to a certain cover, and I hadn't seen it before. And
It's
Well, we're
so
moving on.
It's really weird putting these two solicits back to back because the solicit for 62 ends with a last page so shocking that it will leave fans of Naomi screaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next issue is like, Trial of Naomi. And we're like, all right, okay.
I assume whatever is revealed at the end of that issue though doesn't, like, I assume the trial happening. Maybe it happens because of that reveal, but maybe the actual thing at the end of the issue is not spoiled yet though.
Possibly.
As is my guess. Justice League Last Ride issue 2. I forgot this existed, but it's Chip Zdarsky, so why did I forget this existed?
Yeah, I did as well. But then I'm like, oh, yeah, Zdarsky Justice League book. I'm in for it.
Yeah, I completely forgot this was in the previous solicits.
To be fair, we do this all the time where until we've got the first issue,
Yes,
every month when it's in the solicits, we will kind of just forget about it.
that is true. That does happen. Legends of the Dark Knight issue 2 is coming out. Is this the reprint of the digital stuff?
I believe it is.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't actually mention it in the solicit.
I thought it was, but maybe I'm mixing up. Maybe I'm mixing up because of the other actual Batman digital first book. Maybe this is
Because
just...
Legends of the Dark Knight is what they used as the digital title like 7 or 8 years ago now.
Yes.
So maybe this is just a print one this time.
It may be, yeah. Man Bat issue 5. So that's the final issue of that, I believe, because it's a 5-issue mini.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's coming out in June. We have the second issue of the Mr. Miracle mini that's starting in May. Mr. Miracle, the Source of Freedom. Reintroducing the Shiloh Mr. Miracle, so that's cool. Nightwing 81, continuing Tom Taylor's run. With a couple of pretty covers.
I just like to say we should be saying Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo's run, especially because Taylor has been calling people out on Twitter for not doing that properly, because it is a joint run for the pair of them, because Redondo is going to be the ongoing artist.
I respect that, but when I'm reading solicits, there's so many names.
I know, but I just feel like when it was actively called out, we should probably make an effort.
Well, not everyone sees that. I didn't see him call it out.
I know. I'm just telling you now for next time.
I don't stalk creators on Twitter. Don't say that, because if you say it, I'm telling you now for next time, I'm going to actively not do it to piss you off now. That's how my mind works. You know that's how my mind works. You've just shot yourself in the foot. But what I was going to say is that variant there, I particularly love the texture on his outfit as he's on the top of the gargoyle.
Uncanny Valley about it for me.
I can accept that with the pose, but I think that the texture of the material I particularly like.
I'll give you the texturing, yeah.
I do love that. And there's a Pride variant as well, where he's on top of a Pride flagpole, and he's doing a handstand.
Doing a handstand.
Yeah. The one-arm handstand. Exciting. So that's cool. Then we got Represent issue 1. I have no idea what this is.
It's a digital first thing.
Oh, okay.
It's just, I think it was something. It was to try and get like fresh voices.
Sure.
I think mostly minorities as well is kind of the idea of the series.
Okay, that's
I think
neat.
most, if not all of it, is already out on digital first.
Yeah, so
I've heard some good things.
Oh yeah, this is a 80-page watch. So this is just collecting all of them, presumably then, and putting it out in one book.
All the digital first ones.
Kind of alongside the lines of the Infinite Frontier Secret Origin.
Yeah,
one.
same idea. Yeah. Robin issue 3. This is Williamson's Damien book, with Glenn Melenkov. So
did say that cover's not final. They're trying to hide who the person in shadow is until at least the issues are out.
I respect that.
Yeah,
I respect that. It's better than just a black page saying redacted like Marvel do sometimes with their covers.
Yeah.
Let's just speculate a little bit. The variants also got someone marked out. So
yep.
Neat. So cool. Rorschach, continuing issue 9. So that's get going. This Ruby Justice League book that I always forget exists is still going. With issue 3 of that. Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Issue 110, the longest running DC book currently. I'm kidding, but
and again, I feel points I was so often, but still at $2.99. Given that this is a book for all the kids, I really appreciate them making it as accessible as possible.
Yeah. Sensational Wonder Woman. This is obviously reprinting the digital first book. That's issue 4 of that coming out.
What a variant.
Yeah.
I like it.
Really?
I like her. The face,
I think it looks nice.
I mean, I was going to say that about it, but you said you liked it. And
I mean, it's taste stuff at the end of the day. I'm not like knocking you for not liking it. It surprised me.
I think the coloring's very nice, but it's more just a proportions thing. But anyway, Suicide Squad issue 4. Do you know what? I'm still at that point where I'm forgetting that I stopped caring about Suicide Squad because it's not Tom Taylor anymore. So I'm vaguely interested for a split second and then go, oh wait, no, it's a new run by someone else.
Yeah.
And Robbie Thompson is the perfect someone else. So that's the thing. Superman, containing. Oh, I'm sure Matt likes that cover with Clark and John both revealing the S.
Yeah, it's nice, but John's face looks weird.
That's fair.
Like, it's one of the one. The more I look at it, the more bothered by it I get, but I can't look away.
He looks angry in his jaw, but happy in his eyes.
Yeah. I do like the Pride cover though. That looks like a Norman Rockwell painting.
It is really nice. Him sitting on the planet with the flag draped over his cape.
Angry in his jaw, but happy in his eyes. I feel it was a sex joke to be made there, but I'm going to move on. So Superman 32 coming out. Superman Red and Blue issue 4 is coming out.
Oh man.
Yeah. Man just did what I did.
I'm going to assume that reaction is because of that first name in that writer's list.
No, it was the
cover.
The Ramita Jr. cover.
Oh, the Ramita Jr. cover. Okay. I saw Mark Wade's name and went, oh, Mark Wade.
No, I'm sure it'll be good. Yeah, no, this just reminds me. I perusing Twitter this week and trying to get through the controversies. I ended up clicking on somebody that claimed that JR is the most prolific artist currently working in comics, and nobody holds a candle to them. And I couldn't tell if it was satire or if it was sincere.
I very nearly did an accidental spit take then when you said that. I was just not expecting.
Hey, on the upside,
this guy's feed for longer than I should have. Trying to figure it out.
On the upside, he's not listed in the artist list for the book, so he's just doing the cover.
Right.
So
yeah,
small victories. Teen Titans Academy issue 4 coming out. That's still going. Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 3 is a thing. You got The Dreaming Waking Hours issue 11. That's G. Willow Wilson's Sandman Universe book, which is, I assume, coming near to an end, because that's a 12-issue book now, isn't it?
I don't remember it being a 12-issue book.
Or did it get changed to an ongoing? I'm sure it was meant to be like limited at some point.
It might well be, but it definitely doesn't mention that at any point in the solicits.
We got The Flash 771. Continuing that run.
Look at the cover. Welcome to Sanctuary.
Oh no! Oh no! Leave Wally alone!
that is Wally.
The final
that's not
line of the
Wally.
solicit. Will this journey break Wally forever or return him to glory? I'm like, just stop doing this.
Can I complain about the Flash showing up in the T's and not the F's?
Yes, you can, because that annoys me too.
Yeah.
That does not count when you're doing alphabetical ordering. I agree.
No.
Same with the Joker, which is next. Joker issue 4.
That should be under. Oh, man.
J. Yeah, it should be under J.
Connor, Pete describing this last week almost made me want to check it out. I said almost because
It wasn't bad. I was getting into it.
Look, I understand what the premise is, but it's killing much. So I'm not doing it.
I liked it more than Wonder Woman last week. So I mean,
Yeah, well, you've got no taste. We know that.
People can bait me, right? People can bait me.
By the way, is there something going on with Matt's mic, or am I hearing things?
There's a little bit.
No.
Maybe he needs to preemptively reset it. It's not quite the full thing yet, but
It's just clicking.
yes. Batman Second Son issue 3, reprinted digital, and we are still going to talk about this book. When issue 1 comes out in print, we'll talk about the first, I think, 3 digital chapters as what make up that. So that should be soon. We'll see when we'll get to the list saying what's coming next week and go, oh, okay, we'll pencil that in for next week. Is basically what's going to happen. The Swamp Thing issue 4 still says of 10, but I'm hoping that we can all buy enough copies to keep that going.
And even if it doesn't get extended immediately, they might do it as a season 2 style thing.
Equally good.
Yep.
Wonder Girl issue 2. We're all looking forward to the Adventures of Yara Flor.
And all of those covers.
And they are all. I think I like the first variant the most out of the 3 of them, but it's there's nothing bad there to complain about. Wonder Woman 773 and 774 is the third and final double shipping book of the batch. Still Becky Cloonan's run, of course, but worth mentioning there's 2 of them. And
it's the end of the first arc as well. They mentioned
this could be where I call it. If I get to 2 issues in a month and I'm not feeling it yet, that may be where I call it. But we'll see. Oh, Matt's got no audio now at all.
Hang on, have we missed something else he's been saying since he turned it off and on?
I don't think so. Here he's coming.
How are we now?
Oh, there we go.
Shoot. I've been talking this whole time. And wondering why I was getting steamrolled.
What did we miss? Let's get it all out.
Welcome to.
I was going on about Yara Flor and how great the covers are.
Oh, did you? Oh, very.
You're too busy looking at all the nice covers to look at you.
Yeah,
that's fine. Connor, in your opinion, is that meant to be Mjolnir on the cover of 773?
773.
Wonder Woman.
Oh, maybe.
Let me go find it.
Yeah, it's a hammer.
Yeah.
It's got lightning around it.
Yeah.
I mean, Thor's already in the book. It's not like that would be weird.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
but I'm just saying, like, is just a weird angle that we're supposed to be looking at a sword of some kind, or
No, it's definitely not a sword.
No, it's definitely. I think it's a hammer.
Because it definitely looks like the Mjolnir pendants they found in Viking sites.
What's interesting about Thor? Obviously, Marvel don't own the rights to Thor as an idea because it's Thor.
No.
But is that I actually don't know where the lines begin and end as to what other places can do with Thor and what they can't.
I mean, I think because Marvel's Thor is so unique, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even like the people he's related to are very different to actual mythology.
Yeah.
News to me.
But... the fact that he's blonde in Marvel comics, where he's always redheaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or dark. Yeah, it depends.
He's a ginger.
Aspects. Most of the time, he's ginger.
Yeah. That's where the ginger gene comes from. They think it's from up north.
Connor's not a descendant of Thor. Don't even start. He's too lame.
Look,
maybe not Connor, but
it's not impossible.
No.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so, and you would assume that certain design features, right, like the helmet on Marvel's Thor.
Yeah, and I would say the circles on the chest pads.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. That's probably something that you couldn't do.
No, I mean, I would guess it'd be like Hercules. Like we've had Hercules pop up.
All I'm saying is I'm sure that both Clooney and the artist, I'm sure they both have like a a crib sheet of saying this is the things you absolutely cannot say or do because this is Marvel's version of Thor. These details.
Have at me.
Yes.
No, we can't put that one there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Batman, Dark Prince Charming trade paperback. That sort of came out as a hardcover. This was a pretty solid little standalone Batman story.
We did this for Patreon a while ago.
Once upon a time, yeah, it was a long time ago. Nice art.
Very good though.
Deceased Unkillables trade paperback coming out. Again, I think that may have already had a hardcover. So cool.
Yeah.
Best part of Deceased for my money as well. Yeah, Future State trades coming out. Dark Detective, Wonder Woman. We got Justice League Unlimited Girl Power trade paperback. You got OMAC, One Man Army Corps by Jack Kirby coming out.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's a trade there. Preacher 25th Anniversary Omnibus Volume 2. So they've been
Connor, you gonna get that? It's Garth Ennis. We all know you love him.
I think he's so edgy. I dislike. Joe, I feel about.
I'm in the same spot.
I feel like Ennis in a similar way I do about Mark Miller, where I like the ideas and I love how they're adapted a lot of the time, but I think he's just overly edgy and kind of mediocre as a writer.
Yeah.
Sure. Suicide Squad, The Greatest Shots, trade paperback. Supergirl Adventures, Girl of Steel trade paperback. I'm just listing some of these trades off here at the end there. Superman, Man of Tomorrow, Volume 1, Hero of Metropolis. That's Venditti's.
That's the Venditti digital first that came out last year that I highly recommend.
It is, and I actually like that they're doing both sessions because it's 1 to 6 and then 11 to 15. So when he returned for more.
Sweet Tooth Compendium, 920 pages. This is. I've never really been attracted to the big, thick, like omnibus size soft covers. They're kind of weird to me, but you know.
They're hard to read, but they are wonderful for price and accessibility because this is $60 for 40 issues.
Yeah, this is the whole run.
How hard would this be to actually read? And I would assume it's very hard.
Yeah, they've got a couple of the Walking Dead ones. I think are 50 issues each when they do those. And those are monstrous. I've flipped through them a couple of times in the store.
I will say.
I never realized.
If you're not.
Go ahead, Pete.
I was going to say, if you're not a fan of creases in your paperback spines, I would stay far away from the compendiums because they will be creased to shit.
Crease.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what Sweet Tooth was about because I've never read a single thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you reach the Solicits, there's a cross between Bambi and Cormac McCarthy's The Road.
It's actually not a bad description.
It's like I just got whiplash from reading that.
I've read I've not been reading the new book that the sequel he's been putting out, but I did read the whole original book. And Netflix are doing a show, so you're going to be able to watch it in the not too distant future. Green Lantern Season 2 hardcover coming out.
Yeah.
Volume 2 specifically. They split it in two. So
so this is the back half.
You got The Last God. You got the New 52 10th Anniversary Deluxe. What even is it? What's in this?
Throw that in the fire.
It's all the issue ones again, like they did in that omnibus, isn't it?
What's the point?
Right into the fire.
What is the point? Like, it's such a worthless book. Sandman Deluxe Edition Book 3 hardcover. I guess I've been working through the Sandman and Deluxes. Cool. Nice. Suicide Squad Case Files 1 hardcover. Okay. Suicide Squad Collection of Classic
Features
Stories.
debuts and key appearances of Bloodsport, Mongol, Polka Dot Man, King Shark, Weasel, The Thinker, Peacemaker, and Amanda Waller herself.
And the Case Files Volume 2 trade paper. They did the trade first? That's weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
That's usually
I feel like this is going to try to capitalize on the movie, because doesn't the movie come out this summer?
I suspect these are supposed to just be compilations that, you can buy for people who like the movie. So
the fact that these both come out in July is very telling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, Polka Dot Man and Weasel, which who I know are in there, and then you see Peacemaker.
Yeah, Peacemaker as well, I think was a big one.
Oh.
Yeah. And then you got Wonder Woman Lords and Liars, which is Tamaki's whole run, I think. Just in one trade. 264 pages. So it's a bit of a meteor trade, but her run wasn't that long, so it makes sense just to put it all in one book.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there you go. That's Solicits. Jude, Solicits done. There was one bit of news to add on to that, though, to do with Black Label. It's got a new boss. There's a new head of Black Label. DC senior editor Chris Conroy is taking over management of the publisher's Black Label program. As part of the new position, he also oversees the Milestone and Sandman Universe pop-up imprints, with a team that includes assistant editor Marquez Draper, along with associate editors Andrea Shea and Maggie Howell. I guess the only thing here, I don't really know too much about the person himself, but I think them putting a new person in charge of Black Label at least tells me, Black Label's not completely dead. That they're still doing things with it.
I know a little bit. I think Conroy, he was the Batman group editor for a while. I think in the New 52 stuff for a bit. And to be fair, like, you know, a lot of the Batman stuff in the New 52 wasn't like terrible. It was definitely not the worst section of the content there.
No, because it seemed cohesive. Like everything kind of had to go around what Snyder was doing, right? And that was a balancing act.
Yeah.
So.
I know in a positive sign for things going forward, Tynan mentioned because someone asked him, you know, that horror book that he's doing for Black Label. Mm-hmm. Someone in an interview asked him, why are you doing it at, you know, Black Label instead of going to, you know, Image or wherever, because he works with a lot of places with other horror books, and he basically said, you know, because he wanted to work with, you know, with his editor. It was like, yeah, sure. I think that's a good sign for, okay, if this is the types of books that he's looking at for the line.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, between that and then, I know you're not as excited because of Ennis, but like I think Batman Reptilian and this horror book by Tynan, I think this is the sort of stuff I like to see from Black Label. Like I love the Hill House almost entirely. There was the one book that we didn't like as much, and obviously I like some more than others, but I love getting those types of books from DC.
And did you say Andrea Shea was involved in the department now? Yeah, that's good. They're the you know, so again, a lot of praise on Twitter last week. The one instrumental in getting the Pride anthology happening.
Oh, good.
So again, might lead to some more diverse books.
This is maybe a case of, obviously a lot of changes happened last year, and Black Label was just kind of lost in the shuffle for a bit. Maybe this is them finally kind of just sorting it out, making it sort of run on its own as a stable.
Because we lost the Black Label editor, you know, in the in all of the redundancies. So
I'm glad they didn't try to rename it around, like, because they could have said, oh, technically this is the start of a new thing, but they've realized, no, this already is a name that we can use. We can just continue this branding and stick with that. And I wonder, like, you know, if we hadn't had the Hill House books and the stuff that came after, and maybe some of the stuff that, you know, because I think, like, obviously Rorschach, I think, is Black Label technically, and maybe one or two other things. I wonder if that stuff, rather than the earlier things that got a lot more controversial, that weren't as well received, like the Azzarello book,
to be fair, that was only controversial because of the weird editorial flip-flop.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that if it had just been those earlier things, they might have been more inclined to rename it and just sort of brand it as something new. But because they're doing more horror books and because they'd already established that horror line at Black Label, maybe that's why they feel more inclined to say, no, this has got a brand now, we'll keep this going and continue it.
I actually agree with what you're saying, but I think the reasoning is just slightly off. I think what it is because they've been reprinting classic stories under the Black Label trade, right? Like big, well-known stories. Like I think All-Star Superman's in it, and basically, I think they've established at a point in the bookstore market now where, oh no, these are the Black Label stories. Don't necessarily mean as much in terms of tone or continuity for us. More for these are the books that we want to have that evergreen. Will always just sell in the bookstore.
I could see that. Yeah, but I'm glad they're still doing horror books that are just sort of basically creator-owned works. That, I mean, they're not actually creator-owned. I'm sure Time isn't necessarily. Or maybe it is. I don't know.
I think it probably is, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe they do have some sort of. Maybe this is DC's way of saying, hey, we don't want to lose more good creators to Image because you're tempted by creator-owned. So here, we'll give you a corner of our company where you can do creator-owned works.
I mean, this is kind of what Vertigo always was.
Kind of, but DC still kind of owned a lot of that, though, right? Did they not?
Some of it, yeah. It changed in later years, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's good. It keeps them in the family. It keeps like Tynan happy, and it'll keep doing Batman for them, and we get a cool horror book out of it. So,
we'll win.
Yes, everyone wins. As opposed to, so it's the opposite of Lance Archer, Matt. Keep you in the keep you in the loop.
Yeah.
That was a wrestling reference, Carter.
Oh, okay.
Don't stress yourself.
Yo.
I'm missing something.
Thumbtacks. Never okay. I yelled.
Oh, that was glorious.
So
Brett Baker.
Night.
Brett Baker with blood pouring down her face with that evil smile. She just became a star.
Yeah.
That will be remembered.
Oof. Yeah, when she pulled out the thumbtacks, I went, I'm not comfortable watching this. And then I thought they were going to do that, keep away spot. And
Yeah.
they went straight for it, and I wasn't ready. Oh, yeah. Oof. Those two women, they've jumped to the top of my favorite. I already love Thunder Rosa, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like Britt. Like she's come a long, long way. But that match, for them to do that, whew.
Just before we get into the books,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
can I excite you, Pete? Legitimately this time. This is not me, doing something shitty. This is something that will actually excite you.
You want to rephrase that?
Remains to be seen. But
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know phrasing and all that. But I looked ahead at who was writing the Alien book because it's out next week.
Okay.
Philip Kennedy Johnson.
Oh.
Everything's coming up, Millhouse.
Yeah.
If I have time, I might throw in a little mini Alien review at the end of the podcast next week. I'll give people my thoughts on it.
Well, you can do that, and me and Matt can't talk about Once and Future.
Yes.
I'm not caught up yet, Connor. Let me
That's fine.
catch up.
That's fine.
Yes.
I can talk about the first trade.
I might be caught up by next week because I picked up the second trade at the shop because Savage Shores wasn't in yet.
Don't pretend that this is not a dictatorship where my way goes, right?
No, it's not.
Let's not pretend
But
that
Don't
else.
tell me to go rogue, Pete. I'll do it.
we need a revolution.
I just realized I became the Russian Batman from Red Sun. I'll do it.
But Matt, how good is Once and Future?
It's so good. As I said on Twitter, it is to the formatting of legend and myth to what Star Wars is to the Joseph Campbell, that whole thing. What is that? The hero's journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. This is not the book I was expecting it to be at all. Because it's not really high fantasy,
No,
it's more...
it's urban fantasy. It's all about storytelling.
Yep. So, really good. In fact, before you guys rang, I was going to try to catch up. But you guys rang me as I was getting ready to open it up, and here we are.
Well, we're here to talk about DC Comics. Let's not get distracted with silly fantasy books. Starting this week, Justice League issue 59. Brian Michael Bendis writing with David Marquez on the art. Obviously in the main story. Here. Obviously, I was going to read this anyway. Matt was going to read this anyway.
Yeah.
Connor, on the other hand,
going to read this anyway.
was not going to read this, but a patron is making him read this. So all three of us have read the start of Bendis' Justice League. And before we get to Connor's misery, which I'm sure it's going to be, Matt, how do you feel about the first issue of Bendis' Justice League?
A bit unfulfilled, just because now that I know that it's double shipping, everything makes sense. But when I read that earlier this week, I had no idea, because as I told Connor, this felt like half an issue, just in the pacing and everything. And I liked what I read for the most part, but when I got to the end, I expected there to be more. And now we're moving to the Ram V Justice League Dark story. So I thought we were past double shipping, but if this is how the pacing is going to go, then and that's what Bendis is more comfortable with, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I guess I'm just used to Bendis shipping, because this felt like a Bendis pace book to me, in a good sense, because this is not like his Legion of Superheroes, but there's so many goddamn text boxes and bubbles.
This was so quick to read. That's why when I got to that page, I was expecting more, just because of the way he paces stuff out. So, yeah. Yeah,
this flowed, it had that sort of bookend, and it's not quite at the end of the issue, but the bookend with Green Arrow and Black Canary, talking about the Justice League and how that feeds into things, which is obviously going to lead to them having new members, because they're saying, not only are they new, but it's hey, people need to see us a bit more relatable, and maybe we should shake things up. Maybe we're too comfortable with who's on the team, which I assume is going to eventually lead to Black Adam being on the team in some capacity, given what else the story sets up in this one. But the main sort of part of the story is that this monstrous being, who has a very kind of nonchalant attitude to what he's doing, appears in Kandak. Can I just say that I kind of loved, before he shows up though, this scene of Black Adam kind of being a good leader to this child who's visiting his mother's grave. I thought this was a nice scene.
Yeah,
it's what Black Adam always does.
This this is the best version of Black Adam for me. Like I'm not like I don't like necessarily the overtly evil guy that's like a dictator. I like the one that's like, no, I have to make the tough decisions.
This is kind of the John's Black Adam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when he's comforting this kid and then he talks about his past that we're, that we know from, way back in the Infinite Crisis days, how he lost his wife and the whole family and whatnot. Like, it was really touching.
Yeah. I was into this. It was nice to see this side of Black Adam. And of course, this demonic looking monster shows up with the horns. And very quickly it becomes it's apparent that this is going to be a fight. Black Adam takes him on. Probably a good time to mention Marquez's art and layouts are pretty spectacular for the most part.
Yeah.
Other than, I think his Black Adam looks really young. Like, weirdly young.
Yeah, but I think that's a minor thing because I can always chalk that up to that's magic or whatever. Like, maybe he'll refine the design.
Maybe
as
it
he
looks
goes.
inconsistent with Black Adam to me, and for the most part, I actually really like the art in this issue. I think I tend to not have much bad to say about Marquez. It's very good eyes.
No, that's what I was saying.
Not.
Everything that I've read from Marquez, I've always liked, even if the story itself wasn't like,
Yeah, which is why I'm kind of making a point of saying, I didn't really like his Black Adam face because it's unusual for me to not like Marquez.
Yeah, of course the Justice League show up. It's not the full team though, because obviously we're missing a couple of members and they've not necessarily filled out the ranks yet. And obviously Green Arrow and Black Canary are here, so it's just Superman, Aquaman, Hawkgirl, and Batman show up, and they're like, "Hey, we'll take it from here. We're Justice League, and we have a bit of a fight." I did kind of like the little touch here of like Superman going, "Oh, this guy's clearly the one causing the trouble. Black Adam's not the one. He's not on the wrong side of this." So I like that. But there's some fun pages here. Aquaman attacking this monster with not quite a Sharknado, but it's not
Shark Wall, I believe, was the phrase.
Might as well, yeah.
It's not a million miles away. A lot of sharks. It's a fun page. And I like his reason as well. He's like, hey, normally I wouldn't jump to this immediately, but you were going toe to toe with Black Adam. That tells me how powerful you are.
Yeah.
So I'm not pulling punches. But then, of course, the weird stuff starts happening, which is when he tries to actually attack him directly with a trident. This blast happens that throws him back, and then he affects Kendra's, her Morning Star.
Yeah. The nth metal, right? And
the nth metal starts it's supercharged and starts vibrating and glowing red in her hand. In fact, the art on that page, when you turn the page and it's like the swirling colors around them, it's pretty spectacular. But it's like, hey, something's weird here. It's reacting as if just like it's like almost like a chemical reaction of just being near this guy.
And
the others fly in. There's some action scenes. The beast escapes through a portal somewhere they can't follow, so they're sort of left to sort of ponder who this is, and they're going to go look into it. I kind of enjoyed this glance here as Black Adam sort of tells him to leave and flies back towards Kandak. There's a moment where Superman looks over at him and Black Adam looks sort of back over his shoulder. There's like a moment of maybe some respect, but certainly one of understanding that Black Adam is either appreciative or knew he needed help, or to that effect.
Yeah, the way that I took it is like I tried not to involve myself in this stuff to keep people safe. Right? So that was kind of like a knowing glance, like, hey, thanks, but I don't want this to be a regular thing.
Yeah.
And then that kind of sets up what we just read in the Solicits, right? About him kind of joining, maybe. If he's a little bit more hesitant because he just likes to be the ruler of this small country.
I mean, it may not be an official he's a member of the League. It may just be that it's an uneasy alliance with him that'll last an arc or two, and that's why he's kind of seen as a on the covers he looks like a member, kind of thing. And that leads to the debate with back at the Hall of Justice. Barry's looking into things. Science Calex is looking into things, and Canary and Green Arrow are explaining, hey, Clark, people see him as a human now. They relate to him a bit better. We should do more of that. Maybe we should shake things up with new members, so ever. But the unknown energy of this beast does actually match one thing. There's one other thing that Cal-X has analysed that this matches, and this ties in to Naomi. Naomi, her energy signature matches this, implying that this thing either comes from the same dimension as her, or comes from a similar place as her. Obviously more to go into, but the final page of the book is Naomi showing off to her friends her new powers, and Black Adam coming to see her. So that's your cliffhanger. How do you feel? I mean, before we get, because again, I'm sure Connor's going to give us his list of complaints in a minute. How did you feel about this tying back into Naomi? Because to me, it kind of felt like, oh, this does feel like a Justice League book, and I enjoyed it. I think it flowed really well. But it is very clearly that Bendis has like almost like an overarching thing for his all of his DC work that's sort of still coming into this.
Yeah, and to me that's okay, but I can also understand how people would feel that he's wedging the character in. You know, but like, being that I've read all of his stuff at this point, like had she shown up in Legion, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's on it. But here, it seems like it fits story-wise, so I'm not, you know, I'm not that worried.
I guess the complaint, and this isn't something that I have because I don't really care either way about Naomi, right? Just want to make this clear. This is not me doing that. What I assume the complaint would be is it feels weird to throw her straight to the Justice League, where surely she should be doing stuff with like some sort of Teen Titans level team first.
Well,
like if she was in Titans, right, but a bit more long term.
I think the answer to that is that Bendis in her introduction in her own book set up that she's from this other universe, this other dimension that is completely new to DC, and that maybe the reason why he even did that was to set up other things he had planned later. That this wasn't just going to be it wasn't just going to be Naomi that came from that universe. There was going to be other things that the plot was going to delve into. So it's not so much that she's been going to be recruited as a member of the Justice League right away, even though she effectively might be because she's going to be working alongside them for a while. It's more that she is heavily part of the plot device that is driving whatever the threat is. So
yeah, I think it's fine if she's, again, not part of the League, but if she's kind of there while they're dealing with this stuff specifically. But once this threat's dealt with, I would not want her to be sticking around and being a regular member of the League. And
but
again, not because of anything about her character, but more just feel like that's a bit much for the League.
Yeah, but I feel like she's just kind of passing through, because we do know that he had plans for Naomi season 2.
Yeah.
Right? And he's just kind of, you know, waiting for the artist.
He was waiting for Campbell, who has been doing Far Sector, right? Which, given that that's coming to an end now, maybe that'll open back up.
I wonder when this arc ends, if that's roughly when we're going to get this announcement of season 2, because maybe the whole point of season 2 is that it's going to be set after this Justice League story that she's involved in. So that would make some sense. I think it probably works well enough for a new reader. And when I say new, I mean a new reader who's not read Naomi, right? Because the way it introduces her is that there's a mystery monster. Oh wait, there's one thing that also is from there. Oh hey, there's this character, and maybe you don't know exactly who she is, or you've even heard of her. But clearly, I think next issue they're going to kind of establish some of that. This is just, hey, there's this character who's related, and the cliffhanger doesn't depend upon knowing who she is. All it depends upon is that she's connected to this monster, and Black Adam's going to see her. There's enough in this issue that's set up for this cliffhanger to make sense as a cliffhanger, I think.
Yeah. Well,
as someone who hasn't read Naomi, that is not one of my problems with this issue.
Oh, sure. Okay, let's go then. So, let's let Connor fly.
Okay. Right. First off, John, this wasn't going to be my first point, but I'm going to kind of come back to where Matt mentioned the stuff with the pacing, the start, which I think is goddamn atrocious, frankly. Like, don't get me wrong, part of me was glad it was over, but my God, it was over. Like there's nothing there. It's like, where's the rest of the issue? And going, oh well, it's going back to double shipping. That's not good enough for me. That's a terrible excuse to pace it with double shipping in mind. Because can I make one counterpoint here? Is I actually didn't have that feeling that Matt did. I didn't feel like I was missing half of an issue. I did. I literally got to the last page and was like, wait, it's over? Like,
I think it's important to note that I don't agree with the basis of this argument being that it feels that it's lacking in terms of content, because I didn't feel that. But that's clearly a personal thing.
That's fair. And maybe it's not even that it's lacking content, but more just the pacing of it felt like it didn't feel like I was at the end of an issue. It didn't have an appropriate flow and rise to it. It's kind of what I'm getting at here more than anything, rather than the amount of content, because the pages are clearly there. I'm not arguing with that. And this book is indicative, almost on a meta point at one point though, of why I despise Bendis team books specifically. And this is, goes back to what I've always said. It's not the amount of dialogue, although Bendis can be wordy. But this book isn't that. But it is still a textbook example of what I hate about Bendis books, is that every character sounds the goddamn same. I could remove the names of of the dialogue in things and just apply it to someone else, and I would not notice. For like 90% of the speech bubbles in this, they all sound the same. Even the villain sounds the same.
I don't know if I agree with that, because I feel like his voice for Superman carries over from his Superman stuff. So I feel like I knew where Superman, or even Ollie. That said, his Ollie at the beginning, it took me a second to realize that's who was talking.
Well, I think for me, I mean, maybe his voice does carry over from Superman, but then it gets to, well, everyone just sounds Superman-esque by that logic. I don't know who they all sound like.
And I'm okay with that.
I'm not. They should sound...
I have never had a problem with Bendis' characters having a consistent kind of like shared wit to them. It's never been a problem for me.
Yeah, I really despise, and there's almost like a self-aware meta reference to it later, where Green Arrow is like, "Hey, we could get some new voices in here." I'm like, yeah, like, because they're all just kind of making the same things. We're all we're all starting to see things through a similar prism. I'm like, yeah, you're all starting to sound the damn same. But I don't think that's Bendis actually doing it intentionally. I genuinely I think it was a weird happy accident almost of my critique. But it felt particularly poignant getting to that. But that is what I hate about Bendis books more than anything. Again, especially team books, and it is front and center here, and that's what I hate about this, because along with the pacing as well, like I say, but art's solid. Like I say, my one thing with Black Adam's face aside, really like the art.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I don't have any problem with this Naomi thing, like you're saying there. The way it, again, having not read it, the way it introduces as, there's a match to the thing that was already going on. That happens to be Naomi. That works in a perfectly fine context within itself. Like, you don't have to know who Naomi is for that to work. I know barely anything about her beyond the bare essentials that I picked up, and that was definitely not a problem for me. Again, like I tell you, the external argument of him inserting her into her stories is kind of something unrelated, but I don't think it's a problem in this issue.
Yeah,
I just feel like it's the pacing that killed me as well in this issue.
Well, I think to jump to a point that I think we should reiterate here for the just the plot going forward is that when this monster leaves,
Brutus, his name is
Brutus. There you go. He says that he's clearly ill prepared for this, because he basically is like, "Oh wait, there's a lot of you superpowered beings. Oh, clearly I need more. I need to actually come back with better equipped, which might mean more weapons. It might mean allies. It might mean a number of things.
Right.
But
I think specifically it's actually in regards to the nth metal, because it's after that reacts, because the trident doesn't hurt him at all, right?
No,
he doesn't care, and then it's the nth metal, and it does hit him, and he's like, where is it? Oh, what's that battle stick made out of? It's wow. Okay, what's that battle stick made out of? And then he's like, right, I was all prepared for this. So I'm assuming it's something to do with the nth metal rather than superpowered beings in general.
Yeah, it does make me wonder though what else is going to affect him. That he's not predicted, because okay, he'll come back prepared for nth metal, but what if kryptonite ends up like giving him like a rash or something?
Or you wonder how magic affects him.
Yeah, magic.
Like with Black Adam.
Yeah, just throw Zatanna at him. That'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean that's the most. Yeah, you could make that argument for most things.
Based on the backups.
Well, I actually didn't read the backup in this particular case, but it was mainly because I was an hour behind. So I thought, you know what, since I wasn't feeling the previous backups with this, I'll skip it for now. But I'm not necessarily ruling out going back and reading it later. But
you might do once we talk about King Arthur stuff.
I definitely won't. I definitely will never go back to it.
It definitely goes into what Ram V was doing with.
before
future
you
state.
before you get to it, we should rate
Yeah.
and just sort of, because I mean I was pretty into this main story. I think it's a solid start to his run. I think it didn't rush ahead too far. I kind of like that it takes some time in just establishing what his team feels like with each other.
Mhm.
So I appreciate those elements. But yeah, Matt, what are you going to rate the main story here? Just like
I'm gonna give this one, and it's solely on the art for the most part. I'm gonna give it 7.5.
Connor.
I'll give it a 4.
Solid 8 out of 10 for me. Thank you very much. But yes, okay. So the backup, which is Ram V and Zermanico, Just League Dark. So like I said, I did not read this because I was underprepared, forgetting that we had to start an hour earlier. So I decided to let this one go. But you two may discuss.
I mean, to start with, I think just the pacing, because this is a 10-issue story.
Mhm.
I think it uses its 10 pages way better than the main story. Don't get me wrong, it is short, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's 10 pages. It actually is short. It doesn't just feel short. But we open in the Augustus Priory ruins, in Wales, near Caerleon, which already is like, okay, we're doing King Arthur stuff, because Caerleon was basically where Camelot was supposed to be before they came up with Camelot as a concept and as a name.
Right.
It was Caerleon Castle,
Yeah.
and it makes this all these
from
ancient
reading,
Roman ruins.
yeah, from reading Once and Future, I realized I don't have quite the handle on Arthurian legend that I thought I did.
That's because there are so many different versions.
Yeah. So here you could tell that Ram V has a very specific version of Arthur, and not necessarily Arthur, but maybe Merlin. And again, this should have came as a surprise based off of the Future State story that we got, and how Merlin had taken things over and all of that stuff. So
yeah, and this does essentially boil down into two plots. You have the Merlin stuff, which kind of bookends in, and the Zatanna and Constantine stuff in the middle. Should we just tackle all the Merlin stuff first?
Yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah, so he's at these Roman ruins, which again, like I say, was potentially a basis for Camelot. And you got this man who walks up who starts doing some magic, and very visibly magic, and changes the entrance of the castle and goes through, and all of a sudden it looks completely different. It's how it was when he was there, and I think it's already fairly clear at this point. This is probably Merlin. It doesn't, especially coming off of the Future State issues,
right? As soon as you get to that, what is it, third, fourth page, and he's in there, his hipster haircut, notwithstanding, it is traditionally what we think of as Merlin. But he's got
the sword and the stone.
Yep. With what looks like a lady in the lake, waiting.
See, very interesting. I would say not a lady in the lake.
Well, I do feel there are some iconography there.
There's similarities, but I think it's very notable that she's only standing on the edge of the water, and she is never submersed in the water. She's never laid in the lake.
It was. Yeah, so you find out that this person, it kind of reminded me of Last Crusade, where you have this knight standing by, in this cavern, and looking over Caliburnus, which they say, is the sword in the stone wasn't actually Excalibur, right? Because that belongs to the Lady of the Lake.
Excalibur's the Lady of the Lake one. This was the sword he had before Excalibur.
Right, and so this is in the stone, and looking over, and you find out that this knight is Sir Elnara Rashtu, and she was supposed to be the 13th knight, and they ends up having eternal watch basically until Merlin or Arthur returns. So when he returns, she kneels, and and
just
to get to that part.
Cut ahead at the end, basically. She's like, "Oh, Merlin, did we win the war? This is great. You finally returned." And he's like, "Yep, you did wonderful, but your part's been played," and then just stabs her. It's like, your watch has ended. Leaves her bleeding out in the lake as he strolls towards the sword and takes it out comfortably and melts it down, but takes out the jewel in the hilt. The ruby. It looks like a ruby anyway.
Right.
And takes that.
Yeah, a lot more brutal than I remember Merlin, even in the other tales, right? Like,
Yeah, this is very definitely a questionable Merlin. I don't know what
straight up,
exactly.
yeah, straight up evil Merlin, you could say.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know if it is straight up evil. I think it might be very misguided, but there might be some good intentions behind it.
He puts his fist through her body.
He does. He does. But but I don't know what his purpose is here. He's like,
Mm,
he's saying he's going to drag the world towards its destiny.
mhm.
I don't know what, for all we know, his vision of its destiny might be objectively better. And it can be one of those classic stories of, we need to get there naturally, not dragged there by a dictator. But
Mhm.
it makes it more interesting if that is the case. But we really don't know yet.
No.
But
And
really
then,
fascinating stuff.
yeah, countering that, we get a subtle art change here for how they tell the story. And this is the same artist, right? This is still
Yeah, it's all Zamanico, but you have like
It's-
him telling the flashbacks with this like
yeah, and then
gorgeous.
they look painted here. Just it's mainly just this one, where they're talking like so. Zatanna and Constantine are sitting in the back of this truck going through New Mexico, and they I think it's Constantine that's telling her the story
Yeah,
of like there was this priest who claimed that they recorded these prophecies in the 7th century, and this book ends up in the hands of this, I would assume, metal band, who ends up during a live performance.
the book doesn't, and the book is completely is separate. Like that's the
Okay.
whole thing is. So the book is discovered somewhere else. And it's got its own little cult that follows the book. But then
Okay.
separately in the 90s, you've got this band who sang an unplanned 8 minutes in ancient Sumerian,
Yeah.
which I feel like this is like hitting some deja vus. This might be a real thing that happened because I've got like some deja vu of some band doing this.
Let's look.
I couldn't tell you exactly, but like it's just like there's something in the back of my head about singing in Sumerian, like as being something there.
Not to drag this too far into wrestling, but there was a wrestler who's now known as Aleister Black. Deep occult vibes.
I'm
on
shocked
this
with a
dude.
name like that.
Well, you're right. But before that, he was a wrestler known as Tommy End. And he has all these occult tattoos, but he was part of a tag team called Sumerian Death Squad. And it's very similar to a lot of this stuff here, which I wasn't well aware of, but his whole vibe, their whole vibe of this band definitely spoke Aleister Black to me. So I thought that was pretty I should say entertaining, but I hadn't made that connection before. But
yeah.
So they talk about this and how this, I'm sure this cult will come in to play.
Yeah, basically when they translated the ancient Sumerian, the prophecies actually lined up with the ones from the 7th century, and they're like, maybe there's something to this.
Right.
And it happens to be, the place they talk about is this day and this place. And he's like, yeah, I mean, that sounds interesting. Let's go check it out.
So this is based off of a real thing, I guess. It says, listen to the oldest song in the world. So there is a song written in Sumerian, right? That is around. So that's cool that Ram V's put that in there. But anyway, they're heading to find. I have to refresh because I read this early.
Well, they don't know exactly what they're going to find. They're just going towards this place where the prophecy is. And they get there, and the house is burning, and there's a big like mob outside. It seems, and they're like, "What's going on? Everyone's fighting." And Constantine's like, "Right, all right, Zatanna, pull out some magic and stop this." And she's like, "I can't."
Right.
So I'll explain later. But can you do something? And just to speculate, I wonder if I don't know if it's a physical or a literal thing. But the aftermath of what happened with the Upside Down Man, she's lost her powers, or if it's a mental thing that she's she's just scared of her magic now.
It has magic has its price, right?
And maybe she's scared of what that cost might be in the future. Yeah,
she doesn't want to unleash anything, and he does some pretty nifty blood magic here with his watch. He cuts his hand, puts blood on it, stomps on it, and it allows him to stop time. Yeah. Which is pretty cool. Which this is where the story really picked up for me, because this is my kind of stuff. But he doesn't know that the prophecies are both indeed true, and that there's an angel who arrived in a bolt of lightning, followed by a demon. So we have the angel Orpheal and the demon Bifrons. Where I'm already like, okay, this is Justice League Dark that I'm enjoying.
Playing our game here, isn't he?
Yep. And so they basically, the angel came up from the top, and the demon came up from the bottom, and they both went about their tasks with both sets of cultists, right? So they kind of stirred them all up.
Yeah.
And says then the children looked upon the gift from Orpheal and saw him in his true form. The light blinded them, and then the sulphuret. So then that's the demon people.
Mm-hmm.
They saw him in his, and it drove them all mad. So now I'm also getting some kind of Lovecraftian imagery mixed in here, which we know from Swamp Thing that Ram V clearly has an interest in.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, and there's also there's a lot of ancient religions. You look upon the true form of a god, it will kill you or drive you mad.
Well,
depending on which ones you're looking at.
Right, I don't think Lovecraft pulled that from whole cloth. Right, that's not unique to him. Just I was wanting to point out, the way that Ram V's mixing horror with the fantasy side, where when Tynan had this book, it seemed definitely to edge more towards horror. Whereas here, I feel like
playing with more mythology.
Yeah, Ram V wants to balance them both here, and so basically that they end up giving
Jason Blood shows up.
Yeah, that's the angel was carrying a bag, right, and from this bag, he shows up, and that's when I'm starting to make the connections with Merlin and Future State and all this other stuff. And yeah, so Jason Blood shows up, and they're Constantine and Zatanna are both completely shocked.
Yeah, and his final message is from the edge of we stand at the precipice, from the edge of all reality, something beyond knowing has returned, and that's where it actually cuts back to the Merlin stuff, and it's the end of this story. But again, there's a clear parallel. When you put that lettering onto the next page, that something beyond knowing has returned is on the Merlin page.
Right.
Is a clear intention to try and link that in our minds. Going, okay, so Merlin's the threat is clearly what it's showing here. Really interesting stuff, man. I love what this is. Like even in 10 pages, like it's got a lot of depth to it. I'm just so excited to see what Ramby's doing with this. Because this is now like the first time he's kind of unhinged on the book on his own, as opposed to doing he was wrapping up all the time
following up.
He brought his own voice for sure, but it wasn't his ideas that he was starting with. Whereas this here, this could have been just a Justice League Dark issue 1 for all intents and purposes. And
definitely
really excited for that.
Yeah, I still wish it had its own book though, because I would definitely want more than 10 pages.
I do as well. Me
Yeah.
too. I appreciate though that it feels correctly paced for 10 pages. Like there's a solid okay, we've got multiple plots. We go back and forth. We're not overextending it by trying to go with too many different plots.
Right.
It gets in and out, and art's great. Zamanico does a great job throughout. You have that page with the telling the story where it goes all painted is particularly gorgeous. The whole thing is pretty great. I have very little to actually complain about beyond just the fact that, man, I wanted more.
Yeah, no, and again, art, just that scene with the band, it looks so much different than when we saw Zamanico, and then you get to the scene where everyone's frozen, and just the way that the colorist works in there with it doesn't quite do that transition in colors, but it feels like it gets darker the further you go down the page. And
and there are a lot of really interesting backgrounds as well. I mean, outside of the panels, because obviously instead of just white, obviously sometimes it is just white behind them, but there are often like really intricate designs that look like mosaics or things like that that are just like behind them, which feels like it's a lot of work for just external, literally just background work. It's not even inside panel backgrounds. It's just there,
right?
But it gives it a lot of texture that really makes it feel unique.
Right.
I mean, I'd give it like a 9. Honestly, nothing to really complain about.
Yeah, I'm on the same spot. It's a 9. So it's Ram V is good. Like, who would have thought?
Yeah, I know.
Well, for you two who read both stories, rate the whole book, Matt.
So you have a 7.5 and a 9. So I'll give the whole book an 8.
Carter?
Oh god, this is kind of all over the place for me, isn't it? Because I give it a 4 and a 9, but then the 9's lower weighted and really it's shorter. With a 6.
All right. There you go. I enjoyed Bendis' first Justice League issue. Oh, I was into it. All right. Nightwing 78. Tom Taylor writing with Bruno Redondo on the art. Start of new run, new start on Nightwing. It's been a while since we've talked about Nightwing's own book, for fairly obvious reasons. This starts off the new story. There are references to what's came before. There's references to his time as Rick, briefly, and more of a joke at the expense of it. But
yeah,
but it is there. And we have an emotional reaction, something that was missing because Dick wasn't Dick when Alfred died. And this issue maybe even gave him my favourite payoff to Alfred's death that we've had.
Let's be honest. Hands up. Who shed a tear in this issue?
Yes. There may have been some watery eyes.
This feels like the book that Tom Taylor's always been meant to read, right?
Meant to read?
He's meant to read.
Where did he steal it from?
Sure. he had to read it before he sent it, but it's been a very long time since someone has come in and written the exact Dick Grayson that I want. And Taylor just comes in. But it's not even that, because even before then, like, I enjoyed the Higgins stuff, but that was not my platonic ideal of Dick Grayson, right? Like, this hits all of them. It's, not just him as, Dick Grayson of the Flying Graysons, or, the heir to Bruce Wayne, or, Barbara's boyfriend type character. Like, and I know this is going to sound funny because I know Tom Taylor was a juggler, but he juggles all of those aspects of Dick Grayson in this issue, like, perfectly.
That wasn't that funny, but
it was terrible.
No, but like I didn't mean to, because I do know, I've seen on Twitter, like he was like a proper like busker. Yeah. So like he does though, like it's perfectly balanced Nightwing, which again, it's just nice to have Nightwing again, but the fact like it hits just this seam.
No, I get what you can. You have Dick Grayson being the one who cares and standing up for things. You've got Dick Grayson doing action stuff. You've got his relationship with Babs, which for a lot of people is a big part of it.
Right.
And then you've got just all of that paced excellently and wrapped up. In
you don't even finish listing things off. You've also got his legacy as a Bat character. Because I think that's separate from his relationship with Babs. His relationship with Alfred, and how important he is to the Bat family as a staple in that, is as a whole separate thing, and that is represented here, perhaps even the most. But everything's there.
And I think obviously this is a character that was introduced a while ago in this particular set of runs, but. You're going back to the Zuko stuff, which again is okay. We're bringing in that's the Flying Grayson history stuff that's being dealt with as well.
And Blockbuster as a villain in Bloodhaven is original Nightwing run stuff. That's like go back to the start of Nightwing's career as Nightwing. So everything's there. We start with this flashback, which is actually how Dick and Babs first met before she knew he was Robin. Seemingly before she became Batgirl, because he's Robin already.
I mean, and it's. They're very young kids. Like
He's Robin. That's referenced with Alfred at the end of the flashback sequence. But he steps in and stops this bully from picking on a kid. The Babs is also kind of trying to step in and stop. And the kids, beg for his britches, but of course Dick gives him what for. The guy thinks that because his father is rich and owns the police, that he'll get no fault. And that's the thing. It never mentions that it's Barbara, but you're kind of assuming it is until the tease of like, oh, I own the police. Like, they can't touch me. And she's like, let's see which one he listens to.
How many other young redheads are there going to be in Dick's life at this point?
No, but at the same point,
I'm not saying it's
it
like
shows
a
restraint.
yeah, I'm not saying it's a big twist. I'm saying that it's intentionally not. It doesn't tell you intentionally until it reveals who her father is.
It's a nice payoff, right? Like, because we can just do the quick math, like, oh, redheaded girl. I'm sure that's Barbara, but the smirk on her face when he says, "Oh, my father owns the cops," and she's like, "Oh, does he? Huh? I wonder who my dad is." And it just, and at the time he's just a detective, right? He's not commissioner, and it's just. It felt nice. This book was like a warm hug, Yeah,
I mean, it starts with that. Obviously, it then goes into it ends with the Alfred specifically, like him and Alfred, and Alfred being proud of him for standing up to someone without, without the mask, without being Robin.
And Dick's kind of afraid that he's gonna get into trouble because Bruce is like, you can't be Robin outside,
Gotta not draw attention to yourself.
You gotta lay low. And then I like that Alfred's like, well, no, you're being Dick Grayson. You weren't being Robin. This is who you are. And just.
And also, Dick insisting that he help with the dishes, which Alfred's like, this is my job.
That's another.
Just shows you. Which leads to, of course, the title page, which is this glorious city shot with Dick just sort of flying in front of the sun as it's setting.
And we haven't mentioned them yet, but
colors.
Adriana Lucas's colors. Oh my god. Obviously, we spoke a lot on Suicide Squad when we had fill-in artists, how Lucas's colors were essential in keeping that consistent style between them. And again, right here, this has a distinct color palette already. Wonderful stuff.
Also, it just occurred to me, for the audio listeners, all of us put up our hands when Connor asked who shed a tear.
Honestly, I thought the awkward pause was just enough to give it away anyway.
It occurred to me that, wait a minute, the audio listeners, which is actually more of our audience, wouldn't have actually seen that.
Good call, Pete. Good call.
Keep them in the loop is what I'm saying.
That city shot, just
it's gorgeous.
Man, and then just even the buildings, the way that the windows bounce the color off.
I love how it feels like it shows how Nightwing is the opposite of Bruce in so many ways, because when you think of character leaping through the night, or leaping through the sky, what comes to mind first for a lot of people will be the Dark Knight Returns image, right, with the lightning bolt. Whereas this here, it's like no, there's still sunlight. There's it's so different.
Even the pose though is uniquely Dick Grayson.
It's acrobat,
yeah. So he's got the full layout and. He has his batons and whatnot, but it's great. And then we get his, the full introduction to now, and these hooligans are hurting a poor dog, and
that's when you know a city's like, if they want to tell us, this city's real shit right now.
Yeah.
It's just the local high schoolers are kicking the shit out of a dog, like literally kicking a dog for no reason.
A 3-legged dog on top of it, like Champion,
Yeah.
But and then he steps up and the kid pulls a gun out, and I was like, "Damn, Taylor, you're getting dark already. Like, how many pages in?" Which of course we never have to worry because Nightwing handles it. But just like the action on that page too was just the way that Redondo draws him going through the air.
I think even before the action, like Dick's introduction into the scene as he's walking through the fog or the smoke, and it's just his feet walking towards the dog as the dog is like lying there in pain because she's just been kicked. The
I
build
love
up
when it cuts then to the next bit where it's a full page almost of Dick, and it's the full body shot. The dog's looking up at him just like we are as well.
The build up to the entrance is just very good. To finish my sentence before Connor so rudely interrupted me, I think that sets up, obviously, it's just a simple good deed just to set up Dick and who he is, of course, in present day. We jump to Blockbuster, who's clearly in control of the city. The idea is that as Dick was away as Rick.
Just before we move on to the Blockbuster bit, there's a bit as he leaves where he gets out his stick and shoots out the grappling out of it, and the art shifts entirely. Did anyone else feel like that was like the fraction out?
100%.
It looked straight out of that book
Yeah.
for like just those 4 panels.
And
I was like, oh my god, we're in a completely different book all of a sudden.
well, no, and I can't imagine that it's not intentional, because I do feel like a lot of that heart of that book, not that Taylor's gonna copy, because I feel like he doesn't need to, but I feel like that whole vibe.
More just showing it's an influence.
Yeah, just like, hey, this is, there's similar types, although I would say that Dick Grayson's less of a mess than Clint,
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, but no, just that just the way that he's standing, I was getting big aha vibes.
Yeah, just for those little panels, it just felt like, oh no, I've just thrown back to that book. I don't know. I always go back and forth as well.
Yeah. So, anyways, but no, and then Blockbuster, like I forgot about Blockbuster because it's been a while, and I turned the page, and with the coloring, I thought this was Brick, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice, from the Green Arrow side of things. And then when they call it Blockbuster, I was like, oh yeah, dummy.
That makes way more sense.
Like, why would it be Brick? Just to be different, but he's properly menacing, and not to compare it to other things though. Like I was getting Kingpin vibes.
I was gonna say that myself.
Here,
yeah.
Just he's stoic.
Because we're doing he's running the mayor. Not as publicly as Fisk is right now, of course, but the idea he's basically the mayor.
Is Fisk still the mayor over there in Daredevil? Because I haven't read it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. But it's typical Bloodhaven, right? What, Pete?
I was gonna say, well, the idea is that whilst Dick was away and Rick was kind of around and no one was protecting Bloodhaven, that a lot of the regular criminals in Bloodhaven have risen up and kind of taken control, and this is one of the effects of that, is that Blockbuster does own the mayor, and because the mayor is refusing to do what he's told to, we get this brutal head-crushing scene where we just get the sound effect. He picks him up by the head, and we get the red, and then just blood on his hands. And the red really sticks out because the color palette is, a lot of blues obviously, and there's a lot of yellows in the background for the night lights and whatnot. But the red here shows up in like 3 key areas in this scene. You have the books in the briefcase with the spreadsheets, which I think is telling it from a plot perspective. Like what he's doing is very important. But then you have the crick sound effect, and then the blood in the hands is the only red in the scene. So it kind of like really bullet points all of these really specific elements of the scene.
It is. I think it's actually really notable that in the next scene, like as soon as it transitions to the next page, there's a big red glow, emphasizing everything, and it makes this real sense of continuity of the worst elements of what we've just seen are actually permeating Bloodhaven as a whole.
Yeah, or also even just the idea that because it's literally blood on Blockbuster's hands, and then we turn the page and the entire building is red. So it's the idea that Blockbuster's grip is around the whole city. You've got him kind of, essentially controlling the whole thing. So
he shakes the bloody hand with the new mayor.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's Zuko, of course, Mayor Zuko.
Right.
Melinda Zuko.
And, we should also mention as well, he's got the police commissioner there, kind of in his pocket, who's kind of like chauffeuring the mayors around, essentially.
Yeah, I always like when they make a point of calling out differences between Gotham and Bloodhaven. Now, Gordon's not actually the commissioner right now, but typically speaking, he is. So I think setting up that we have this corrupted commissioner, not that it's original, obviously, I mean, Gotham did have corrupt commissioners in the past.
No,
it was kind of
just the idea of this is how different it is. Nightwing doesn't even have the police commissioner that he can rely on. That Bruce usually does.
And of course, he comes home. He owns the building, which is the editor's note, just kind of like, hey, he had money, blah blah. It's gone now, but he is on the building. His apartment's in there, and he comes in. Barbara's there. He because he's aware that someone's snuck into his apartment. He's smart enough to notice that. But Barbara, of course, is also very capable. So when he tries to sort of jump in with a surprise, she just flips him over. So they have this scene. She's delighted by the puppy. She's like, "Yeah, you're not giving this puppy away. This is your dog now. Just accept it." But the point of this is to essentially, give him what Alfred left him. And he's not only has he left him a lot of money, because Alfred was worth a lot, but he's left him this letter, and this 2-page layout where he's on the fire escape, reading the letter, and I think there's some obviously the wording itself. Alfred calling him his son, saying that he's proud of him, saying that he's the best. As we always say, like Dick and Wally are the heart and the soul, and this is Alfred saying to Dick that you are the heart of.
I love that because obviously the page, it's a double page layout, but it is split into two because you have the side panels as well.
Right.
The bottom of the first half is just I believe in Dick Grayson, and that feels like such a perfectly punctuated point before you move on to the second half of the page, even though it's one page and it's one letter.
Well, I should point out, I think the word half's a bit of a misnomer because it's
more 2/3.
More of a third.
It's 2/3 and a third, and I think that I think that's it's good on the page because I think one of the things the art does here, apart from just the beautiful colors and this shot of the city, but it makes when it goes into the close-ups and that sort of column of panels on the right hand side. One of my favorite bits in the art is just it's fairly subtle, but it's Barbara holding his hand. Like her hand goes on his shoulder and he sort of like grasps it as he's reading this, as it's getting more intense. And I think if you do care about Dick Grayson, you care about his relationship with Alfred, and you care about these things, I think it's this almost this double punch to the gut of the actual meaning of the page and the actual meaning of what Alfred's saying to him, but also the meta level of we have Dick back finally. We know we should have done this moment a long time ago. And Dick's been back for a while, a little bit. Don't get me wrong. It's just not like he just popped up. He's been in Batman and stuff. But this being the relaunch of his new run with the new writer, all these things, this feels like no, Dick Grayson is important. We are acknowledging that he is important, and that even when he was Dick Grayson before, his book wasn't necessarily treated like it was that much of a big deal. This, and compare it to Hawkeye, compare it to Daredevil, characters who have had really good runs over at Marvel. I do think there's, whether or not DC are consciously doing this or it's just Tom Taylor doing it, I don't know. But going out of his way to make this feel like it is the start of a special Dick Grayson story, where we are hopefully at the end of this, hopefully very long run, going to look back and say, no, this is the start of something that made Dick feel special and important again.
A run for the ages.
And it's the whole I believe in Dick Grayson, and I don't think it's just a Tom Taylor message, right? Like, I feel like that's DC now, right?
Almost,
like,
yeah.
Is this
like
a
statement of intent?
Is this a promise after Didio? Like, we believe
that's like, almost how I took it. Not to beat a dead horse on that, but like, it felt so good to go in and buy a Nightwing book again. Yeah. And then for it to be as good as this is too. Like, I had zero doubts that this team was going to deliver, right? But they didn't have to deliver this hard out the gate.
I think the sentiment of this issue is effectively being Dick Grayson matters. Like, obviously I was expecting this issue to be good, but for it to be that mission statement of no, Dick Grayson's important, he means a lot to us, and we're going to treat him that way. It's important.
Some people at DC have missed reading Dick Grayson as much as we have.
Yeah.
Definitely. Obviously, there's a little, there's an epilogue scene that sets up some villain stuff, but like this is the end of the Dick part of the story.
This it has to be. Is the page of the issue, right?
It is. Yeah, it absolutely is. And everything about it. Not only the effect of him reading this, the fact that Barbara's there for him in this moment, because that's one of the other things is that a lot of us who care about the Dick and Barbara relationship to some extent. Is that this isn't, the romantic page of them in each other's arms. It doesn't need to be, and I don't even necessarily need that to happen. It's more just that this is how close they are. She's the one who has to be there for him as he's reading this. That's important. And them sharing this moment, and it's not that it's a romantic moment. It's just that she's someone he can lean on.
Anything but, really.
Yeah.
Right, but it is a very intimate moment.
Yeah.
Right?
And because I think you were really right to pull me up my phrasing of the page. I said half, and it really is thirds, and that is great. But I think you're right, Paul, because I think that is actually important to the layout. In that this, that big 2/3, you've got a wider shot. You see the scale of the city, and Dick feels relatively small on the page, and then when you cut in, it's so much more intimate, and you get the emotional moments in this intimacy. Yeah,
I think that's kind of the point. Yeah, is that it's this almost landscape or wide shot of the city with him, and I think even just where he is in the frame, in that wider side of it, that
just
wider 2/3.
Side.
It's like he's right at the edge. It's not traditional rule of thirds where he's more prominently placed. Like like the ladder that Barbara's sitting on, or the steps and the fire escape she's sitting on, like that's literally riding the edge of the page, which typically in terms of framing is a no-no, but clearly it's making a statement here of they feel off to the side, like they are small parts of the world, that the city is more important, but then you get to those close-ups on the other side, and it's like, no, they are front and center. He's front and center specifically, but it does feel much more intimate. So
it is just like this whole letter. It's like I say, this is where I'm pretty sure we were all tearing up a little bit. And that final panel of it, it is Dick tearing up as well. Because it is I'm so proud to call you my son.
It's weird to sort of put a timeline on it, but I'm pretty sure if they weren't teary already, I believe in Dick Grayson is what made me teary. And then because those panels on the right hand side, I remember I think I had to struggle to actually see what it said because I was kind of like fighting through some watery eyes. Because it's not like, because obviously it's not a completely handwritten like lettering style, but it's a bit more cursive than traditional, right? Because it's meant to be a letter, so there was a bit of a struggle sort of reading it. But
well, I just to go back, just like I loved the conversation before when Babs is like, he was really rich, by the way, and he's like, why would a billionaire make me sandwiches and do my washing? She's like, the same reason a billionaire would fight crime in Gotham, because it's what he wanted to do. And that is kind of Alfred, right?
God. And it's just the Alfred that I love, right? It's that one that is the father figure to all of these lost kids, and of course, he got Wayne money, but he's not gonna let that change him.
And I like that it points out that he got Wayne money, but he was investing it in ethical things, and by the end, he couldn't think of any more moral or ethical way of what to do with his money than to give it to Dick, because he knows Dick will do the right thing with it, not just wage a war on crime. Essentially,
right. And again, it's the difference of Bruce and Dick, and it's because I always look at Dick Grayson as he's seen Bruce at his absolute worst.
Is this
right?
is this the first time in comics history where Dick Grayson has a higher net worth than Bruce Wayne?
100%. It's gotta be, unless during the Bruce Wayne fugitive stuff, right, when he was on the run, way back.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, I would say it's the first time it matters. It's the first time it's seemingly the status quo for a while. I would say something. It made me recontextualize Alfred with the whole Batman in general, because we talk about how Bruce is often the father figure to a lot of them as well, right? I feel like that's probably not really actually true with Dick. I think with Dick, it's more of an older brother, and then Alfred's the father, and then Alfred's almost like the grandfather to a lot of the the younger ones, like Tim onwards, especially. And I'm including like Steph and Cal, everyone kind of in that, not just the Robins. But from that kind of period onwards, there is a distinct separation between, Dick feels closer to Bruce than he does to Tim, for example. And this here, it feels like Alfred giving it to the younger son, because it's like, Bruce had his chance. I trust you more to do the right thing with this money.
Yeah. The final page is just going back to the Zuko stuff. Seemingly, she actually does have a plan, because she's looking at this flying Grayson's poster, because her I don't know, henchwoman I suppose says what about Dick Grayson, because that's the thing, like her reaction earlier on when the previous mayor got his neck crushed or snapped or whatever the exact method of death was, by the bare hands of Blockbuster. She wasn't exactly that scared or shocked by it. She kind of took it fairly calmly, as one would. But she says, what are you doing about Dick Grayson? She's like, I'm not ready for him yet. And she's like, you don't wait too long, you may not get another chance. And she's like, I know, soon. And she's like staring at Dick on the poster.
I think it's double that, she's not ready for Dick yet, but yeah, Blockbuster, whatever.
Yeah.
Like the way she does here, Blockbuster does what Blockbuster does.
Is that? Do you think that's a tease that she's actually trying to like take over the city for a good reason? She's trying to like actually ultimately take down Blockbuster from another angle.
When you see her at this page, she's literally washing the blood off her hands.
Yes.
So
hard not to think of this guy, almost like a Lady Macbeth sort of way, in a lot of ways, with her being pulling the strings of Blockbuster.
And I don't know if I'm just reading too much into this, and I'm waiting for the I'm waiting for the twist, but I think she's a good guy. I really do. I feel like she is Now, granted, she's done some bad things to put herself into that spot, you know. But
yeah,
I
you're
feel
thinking
like
more Shades of Grey anti-hero where she's trying to like fix the
Yeah.
city from another angle.
because she cares about Bloodhaven, right?
Yeah.
And that she doesn't want it to be this place that's ran by somebody like Blockbuster. When sure, she'll look the other way and she'll keep the corruption going, but it's not going to be the complete cesspool.
She might actually, I mean, she might turn out to be proper evil and is just pulling the strings, like Connor said. But I could see her almost in a weird way becoming his Gordon, and that his contact isn't the commissioner of police; it's actually her who's like high up in the criminal.
No, I can see
political
going
system.
that way as well.
Yeah.
There's kind of not enough to really be sure on either way yet.
Yeah.
I can see both ways working out right now.
Yes. But needless to say, fantastic first issue.
Mhm.
So I guess we're going to rate it. Connor or Matt rather, what are you going to rate it?
I'm giving it a 10. Firing it at the gate.
Connor?
Yeah. I think part of it is the fact that I've missed having a Nightwing book, and then that this being so good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also giving it the 10.
I'm going to be the dick here. Apparently, I'm going to give it a 9.5. It's not getting the sweeping 10s, and the only reason being, right? This obviously was a moving issue. There's so much of this that I loved, and I think it's exceptional. The only reason why it's not getting the full 10, in reality, is just because, what it's setting up with the Zuko Mayor stuff is perfectly solid and fine, but it wasn't necessarily riveting in its own right yet, so I'm not going to give it a 10.
When there's an issue that literally makes me cry, there's a good chance it's getting a 10, if it's not messing up in other departments.
Yeah, so, but I guess all I'm saying is it wasn't like, not every page felt special, which is typically what most of the 10s that I give out. Like, I just have that feeling the entire time.
I would probably say 17 out of the 20 pages felt special.
Sure.
That's enough for a 10.
I'm going 9.5. Maybe that'll be seen as cruel or vicious, even though Tom Taylor's clearly one of my favorite writers right now. And Redondo's hardly pulling punches on the art. But 9.5 for me. Hey, that's pretty good. 2 10s and an 8.5, still one of the highest averages we've ever given.
Could you say, just on a lettering touch that I loved before we move on entirely? It's when Dick pulls the dog up and Babs is in the window, and it's just like a heart and then an exclamation point inside the bubble, and it's like there's no like physical words being uttered, but it tells you everything of the noise she's making almost. It's really expressive lettering.
I imagine something along the lines of, "Ooh."
It's so much nicer than the scene. Just like sometimes they'll write like squee or something like that, and it's like, no, this is much more inventive and gives me the same effect without taking me out of the moment.
Something I've actually just noticed in that page as well that I kind of like is that in the following panel, when she holds the dog up in front of her, Nightwing's actually got the pop art thing at the background, almost to suggest that to her for a brief moment, he is just part of the background and not relevant to her.
He's like completely flat and 2D as well. Like, he's like, who cares about this guy? There's a little puppy here.
It's a little touch, but there's a reason for it. It's the idea that she's just so obsessed with the dog for a panel that he blends into the background.
Yeah.
Simple but effective. All right, Matt. We rated it already. Never mind. We're moving on.
Yeah, not bad.
So, cool. That was Nightwing. Catwoman, issue 29. Ram V writing. Fernando Blanco on the art. Matt, you did catch up, didn't you?
I did.
So you're on board.
And the worst part of this book is having to pick Fernando Blanco or Bruno Redondo at the end of the episode.
It's so cruel, isn't it?
Oh, man.
I love that Marquez is even in the running, which just tells you how strong the art was this week.
Yeah. Art's all fantastic across the board this week. But as good as Ram V's story has been, and with Alleytown and Selena establishing herself there as this new anti-hero, the Fernando Blanco art has really made a lot of roads for me.
And Belair's colors as well.
Yeah.
I honestly, the only critique I have of this issue, well, actually, I have one minor critique, is that there's a page like a little bit into it that has like 4 editor's notes in one page, which is a bit much. Yeah. But my only actual critique is that because we had a 2-month gap from the ongoing storyline, is that rejiggering my brain to sort of like remember the key players as it was going was a little bit of a
Yeah.
issue,
Yeah.
but that was,
There was a nice touch early on where one of them did the hand sign that we saw in Future State,
Yeah.
which I don't remember seeing before Future State, but it was obviously a big moment in that first issue.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just because you didn't notice it, because it wasn't like
Right.
a thing.
Which is, that's what I was gonna say. It might have been there, and I didn't notice it, or it might be just like, oh no, we're kind of just established because it's not over the top in this issue. It just happens once, and it's assigned to someone, but more just, okay, no, we're gonna start establishing this. Characters are gonna start using this in the area.
Yeah, so Nahegan is on the phone, but he's assassinated. There's an assassin sent after him. Who obviously we get more context for who this assassin is and who sent them later on. But particularly brutal, just bodies all over the floor.
It reminded me of the Ghost character in Ant-Man and Wasp.
I can see
I
that
can see that.
because of the hoods.
Just
yeah.
the whole vibe and the way that they move and but no, it's excessively brutal, and you kind of want that in a crime book like this.
Yeah,
Just to show you who the really bad guys are,
Of course. But then we go to was it Hadley, the cop that's been sort of a recurring character in the book.
It's Hadley, I think.
Just Hadley. He comes to see Selina. The kid out front gives him some shit as if he's not allowed to go in, but he's like, I'm just messing with you. He goes up and Selina's sunbathing. She's on the pool. She's having a quiet day. Actually, probably one of my favorite things about this actually is because she tells him to get lost, says that we're even. You saved me, I helped you, we're done. But one of the things is that he points out this symbol. He gives her this crime file of the drugs that she sort of like dropped off for him and the cops, and basically this symbol triggers something in her. And there's another scene first, but when she's out in the streets and she's going to the location, which turns out to be Nigma's place, Riddler's place. I kind of love this thing where she kind of like has this internal struggle with herself, where she's like, "Why is this bugging me?" And she's like, "It's him." Like, Batman sort of like, left this one thing. If he's altered her personality in one way, it's this idea that if she sees something that's like a clue that might lead to something that's going on, she has to like check it out.
She can't let it go anymore.
Yeah, there's some sense of nobility that maybe it's something she can solve or something. But I kind of like that impact of like, not that we have to have much of a bad impact on the book because it is Catwoman's book, but I do like that relationship and their continued relationship over like decades of back and forth has left something on her.
Even if there wasn't a romantic thing between them, the fact that they work together so much, of course, his whole like, I smell a mystery type vibe. And she's gonna bite in on it.
And this is before she knows it's a personal stake because it's Ivy that's involved. She doesn't know that yet.
No, it's just there's just something about it. I do like the symbol itself. It's like kind of like almost like angel wings.
Yeah.
But they make like an M.
Yeah, but they're a little bit more sinister than angel wings. Like there's something off about them.
It's just it's McDonald's new range for this is the biblical McDonald's menu.
Would love to know what will be on that.
Na 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 na. Prophesizing it. All right, so.
Yikes.
Okay, fine. I'll nail it.
You ever get embarrassed for somebody?
Na 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 na. I'm nailing it because Jesus got nailed to the cross. You see, so nailing it is the new McDonald's. I don't know.
Get embarrassed for somebody, Connor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall I make it a trio?
Second-hand embarrassment is real.
Shall I make it? I'm not embarrassed. I don't give a shit.
Yes,
so,
you know. This is why you keep saying stuff.
I'll keep going. So we got evil scientist shenanigans, and because I actually until we got this teaser the chamber at the side of the panel, I'd forgotten that the ending of the last issue was Poison Ivy in a tank. I was like, oh yeah,
it's the whole reason I got caught up.
Yeah. Well,
not that you guys tell me, man. It's so good. Fernando Blanco art. And I'm like, Ivy, you say? I'm there.
Yeah. So we find out that they sent this. We were calling her the White Witch. This assassin from the start of the book was sent by them to cover some loose ends. And as we find out later in the book, basically they're using Ivy to make this drug. This drug that's on the streets is being made from Ivy DNA, and that's why they've got her.
It's notable, of course, that we learn that Simon Saint is behind this, who is, of course, behind the Magistrate program.
Yeah, and. Although later in the issue, they're basically going to kill Ivy because they've found a way to reproduce what they're taking from her body, so they don't need her anymore. Like, they've done all the work they need to with her, and that's it. Obviously, there's some serious teasing going on here as to who the White Witch is, because we see her get out of the shower, we see like the bottom half of her face just before she puts on the mask, and they've sent her to kill Nigma, but because he was involved as well. But like seriously, they're seriously teasing who this could be. So I don't know if we have any guesses yet as to who White Witch is, but I don't know.
No, not off the top of my head.
I don't.
It does mention that her her meta powers, Marvel slip, that her meta powers are new, that she's adapting, and it sounds like they're controlling her, like she's not doing her, which is why I'm kind of.
Did they give her the powers?
Yeah, well, that's what it sounds like, but I'm also kind of expecting it to be kind of a Winter Soldier-esque thing, where she's kind of being controlled, brainwashed, whatever it might be. It sounds like that kind of program. I
feel the reason that they're keeping the identity from us is that she's gonna show up in Selina's life. Not as Catwoman.
Okay.
And so that'll be a whole piece of it. And if she is being controlled, if it's like a code word type thing, or she's hooked on whatever, if the powers are from this drug.
I'll be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that her sister was like seen in the run already and she's still with Selina, I would have said it was a sister that they have, engineered and turned into a killer. But it's not. It's definitely not. But that.
No.
That's what would have made me think if we hadn't already seen her sister still be like in the apartment with Selina in the last couple issues.
So who is that redhead on the roof supposed to be?
I actually wasn't sure. I wasn't sure who that was.
I wasn't sure either. Okay.
Just a friend, I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because when you said the sister, I kind of spaced about the sister.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no. Last time I saw her, she was catatonic still.
Yeah, she's not like got all her faculties.
I was thinking it was a sister as well though, because she makes a point of saying I liked you better when you weren't talking.
Oh yeah, maybe it is a sister then. That's a good point.
It is the sister.
Did I overlook that?
Because they make it's when she makes a thing about going, he's cute, about Hadley, and Selina's like, he's a cop.
It is.
I think he was like, you've done worse. So, I liked you better when you didn't talk. So I think that is supposed to be her.
That's fine.
Okay.
Then.
All right.
That's fine.
So yeah. But yeah. So clearly, I feel like this is going to turn out to be someone. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it feels like they're hiding their face specifically for a reveal for later. So Catwoman goes to Riddler because she recognizes the symbol, and this is where she's seen it before, because when she was casing the Riddler's place out. Actually, something I like, obviously there's a lot of good art in the book, but one of the more subtle moments I like here is that when she first gets into Riddler's like hiding place, and there's like a photo of Batman, and he's like drawing some Riddler question marks over the eyes. There's just like the faintest like sort of smile from. It's just like it's like she's seen just because she's seen Batman. Yeah. I don't know.
This the top half of this page that you're on now is my favorite moment of the sequential art in the entire book, by a long shot, and a large part of that is down to the lettering as well, because it's not in a traditional order. The way the panels are laid out, if you take the lettering off that, you would probably read the two small ones, the one underneath it, and then the big one on the right. But that's not the order it goes in, because it goes around, you go back through. But because the lettering is over the two panels, it just guides you into that naturally, and you go around in a completely seamless way. You don't even think about it, but just because of that placement, and it's just wonderful.
I'll throw in here also the art as well as the lettering, because I actually do think, because it's the panels you're talking about here, it's like it's Catwoman cutting a hole in the glass, then the arm coming in the second panel, and then that third sort of vertical panel is like her coming through the window. But I think notably the pose itself, like her leg is like going down long the ways, like the one leg that's coming in is like sort of leading you down that panel, so it kind of there's a shape to it as well, I think, just in the art.
There is, once you're onto that third panel, it leads you down. The art of that panel leads you down and back across. But I think it's the lettering that makes you go over to that panel in the first place. Which is why I think all together, it's not just the art or the lettering. It's a whole wonderful sequential panel.
You go through that almost as nimbly as she does, though, right? The way that you're following it, and then down, and then...
We're breaking down why that this is why here, but you're not thinking about this as you're reading it. You just follow it naturally. You don't even think about the fact that you're reading it out of what would be the traditional order for those panel layout. Which is why I think it's so fantastically done.
Yeah. In fact, the page before that, where Catwoman's like jumping through the sky, and you get all the neon lights of Gotham. We're talking about Nightwing's like jumping through the sky and how it's different from Batman. I want to point out that hers is again different, where her pose in this silhouette jumping through the sky is a lot more sleek. Dare I say, a lot more cat-like, to be, drop the pun, but again, very different.
I love the lettering on this page as well. The way the boxes kind of snake around the page and kind of let you take it all in. It's not static though. It's not just down in a line. It's spaced out nicely.
No,
really.
And it makes you take in the whole page.
Yeah.
Of course, Selena gets there just in time because White Witch is about to kill Riddler, and she jumps in with gets the whip in. There's kind of a weird effect. She even questions if she's a hologram at first, because when the whip attaches to her, she kind of glitches. It's almost as if she's a hologram. So it's clearly like an effect that her suit's like giving off, where it kind of has like a distortion and maybe like a force field defense system or something like that. But we get a whole fight scene with them. It's a 2-page layout where Selena does get cut in the face a couple of times, so it feels a little vicious. Riddler ultimately throws a bookcase on top of her, and Catwoman jumps with him out the window, and then wants to get out the window. That's all looks great, of course, but where he questions that, we can't jump over that sort of ledge, that bridge, because it's like a 60-foot drop, and Catwoman hits him with a riddle. Says, "Hey, Enigma, what comes before a start, and sometimes with a suit?" And I love that he just says the first letter, but you just kind of get it from the context that they're jumping.
And I love that the rest of him saying it is mid-jump on the following page.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think as soon as he says the J, you get what it is. If you didn't get the riddle, and I think most people won't right away just because you're too busy like following the art and reading, where the story's going.
You're kind of like, that's Riddler's job, not mine.
Yeah, to think about it. I think my favorite thing about all this though is how it brings in Father Valley again. Just as they're jumping, you just cut to this panel of him on a rooftop with a sniper rifle, and there's this moment where there's some blood in the water, which is glorious coloring in the art. So it's like, who did he hit? You don't know until the next page who he actually hit. But then there's just this moment where White Witch is in sort of like hologram mode, looks up to the roof, and he's just standing there in silhouette, and he sort of tips the hat to her. And it's this moment of like two different assassins, just kind of like maybe we'll have to cross paths, but not today kind of moment. It's good. It's good. And he's quoting Bible verses and whatever,
doing his whole shtick.
Yeah. Well, the end of the issue is Riddler has been hit. He's got blood coming out of him, and we have to go. But he mentions that Ivy's the one. He's the one who mentions that Ivy's been used to make the drugs, and so the issue ends. A very satisfying ending because it gives Catwoman that personal connection to what's going on, a personal stake because she cares about Ivy. But the whole sequence was so exciting, beautifully drawn. All these elements, all these plates that are spinning with Ram V, with this Father Valley, just kind of being this constant presence where it feels like when we finally start to address him directly, that's going to be kind of the big main event of this first big chunk of the run.
That's why I'm really excited for that annual, see some of his backstory. Because I love in this issue that he's just not there. You're not thinking about him and you don't even see him first. You just see the sniper scope. You just see someone's got the them in the sights, and it's like, oh, of course he's there.
Yeah. So really well done. Enjoying all this bit. And the funny thing is, at the start of the book, when I was worried about, did I remember these families that are involved with all this plot? Because it was so good, but it's been so long, it was all these new characters. But because that guy gets killed by the end of that first scene, it's like, it's not actually as important. I remember the gist of what happened anyway, so it's not. I don't have to remember him too specifically, because the plot's moving on to other things anyway. So that was kind of neat in terms of the flow of just the book from issue to issue. And maybe that's an acknowledgement from Ram V knowing that there's a 2-month gap between two
Very
issues.
possibly, yeah.
It's like, hey, no, I'll make this very simple and a sort of not a start. I don't think you could start reading the book here, but I think for people who maybe have like some foggier memories of what happened before, it's kind of a neat place to. It's okay. We're kind of a cleaner point here.
Yeah, it's different in just to compare the two Ram V things this week. His story in Justice League for Justice League Dark. I think you probably could just start there. I would advise reading at least the Future State stuff, I think, because that's going to be heavily there. But it functions as just, hey, no, you didn't need to read any of the previous stuff he was doing. You can jump in here and it'll work. Whereas this here, it's a nice little refresher in a lot of ways, but you definitely shouldn't start here.
Yeah. Really good stuff. But the book has been. I think it's impressive that it's really given Catwoman her own world, and I think this is one of these things that when there's new Catwoman runs or books announced in the future, I'm not going to get excited because the entire basis of why I like this book right now is just because of this world that Ram V's creating around her and how he's treating her characterization. So obviously I'd always hope for a return to something like this, but this feels like it's distinctly his version of Catwoman.
I think every Catwoman book I've ever liked has been playing with the crime drama stuff. Every single one.
Yeah. The whole underworld thing, and she's the fact that she upset the boat so much now that Simon Saint's organization has to start taking them out. And that's why Nahagian has to go. It's a lot of cause and effect type stuff. But yeah, it's stupid good. Like, I can't believe. Like, I didn't want to read Catwoman again, but like,
how can you not now?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever wanted to read Catwoman. I've always tried the new ones whenever they've started since New 52, but I've never cared it. Because even Joelle Jones one, which we were hopeful for, I read a few of those and I was like, I don't think I can keep up with this. It's just kind of okay.
I really do think it's the Gotham setting here, which, moving her to like LA, whatever that was called, it's just a little bit off. Here, it definitely feels like the down and dirtiness of Gotham. It's almost perfect for that kind of Catwoman story.
The Alleytown kids, the different crime families, all of it's kind of like coming together. But then, but you mix that with just the really good art and everything. It's just everything's just clicking with it.
I did notice there's a different artist in the Solicits, so I guess Fernando Blanco just needs a little bit of a break. I'm sure he'll be back.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see what they do instead. Matt, what are you rating Catwoman 29?
Maybe this is an 8.5.
Connor?
I'm going with a 9.
I'm going to concur with Matt's 8.5. Very, very good stuff. So, there you go. That's the books, which will take us out of the part of the show where we pick our favourites. We do our favourite art, favourite cover, panel/moment, and usually the top 5, but clearly this week it's just going to be ranking the 3 books we all read. As they're sort of like ushering into this new Infinite Frontier, there are some quiet weeks of books as they're starting to build them back up because they didn't just launch everything from the get-go. So, but hey, so we'll start with okay, so is your panel/moment of the week anything other than I Believe in Dick Grayson? Or thereabouts?
I mean, if we want variety, I can pull something else from that book.
You don't have to. I mean, if that's the moment, then that's the moment.
I mean, I might narrow it down to the final close-up with him crying. I'm proud.
Sure.
I'm proud to call you my son.
Yeah,
that's probably the peak of it. But I mean, it's the whole 2-page.
No, it
thing,
is. But
really.
if I'm being fair and giving it a panel, it's that. But I mean, all the books have something I could go. I mean, that sequence in Catwoman with the lettering, just that 4-panel sequence is just phenomenal. Just on a craft level. Yes. And then and
anything from Bendis' part of Justice League, I'm sure you could pick.
No, I honestly, if I was going to pick something from Justice League, it would be the moment where Constantine's telling the story of the prophecies, and the art in that is just sublime.
The way that it shifts is so good.
Yeah. All right. So going to cover, I do like the main Justice League cover, but I have to go with the main Nightwing. It's the regular Nightwing cover for me. Matt, what you got?
Regular Nightwing cover.
I'm just checking what this Catwoman variant is. It's still regular Nightwing cover.
Okay, best art of the week, Connor.
Oh God, this is so unfair. I'm gonna give it to Nightwing. I think Redondo and Lucas kill it. But I mean, if it's up against Blanco and Bella as Catwoman, then there's not much between them.
Matt?
Redondo.
I am also going Nightwing. So there you go. Nightwing's winning a lot of things this week. Not surprising. All right, rank the books, Matt. Go for it.
Number 1, Nightwing. Number 2, Catwoman. Number 3, Justice League.
Connor?
Same.
Yeah, I'm actually the same. I think it's notable though that for me and Matt, Justice League's obviously not as much of a gap between that and the second pick.
To be fair though, I loved the backup in Justice League.
Well, you did, but even then, you still gave it an overall 6. So, I actually quite enjoyed Justice League. It's just that Catwoman's been really great, and then Nightwing was
if I count
special.
because you didn't read the bit of Justice League that you would have dragged it down overall for you.
Mhm.
If I hadn't read the bit of Justice League that dragged it down for me, I'd have been a 10 and 2 9s this week. So really, I can't complain.
I almost want David to make you read something else just so you can't read Justice League Dark.
I mean, he could always read it.
Yeah, but I'm not going to pay $5 for 10 pages.
Well, you can, yes.
And you must not like Ram V that much.
I know. Must be he's a poser, man. He's not a real fan. He's not a real fan.
He understands. He does. I actually tweeted this out when it was announced. I was like, look, I'm loving it, but I mean, come on. He's like, yeah, I get it.
Okay. There you go. Nightwing, unsurprisingly, unanimously book of the week. I also got best cover, best art, and best moment. So, needless to say, Nightwing is the champion of the week.
It's been a while since we could say this, but we all love Dick.
We do all love Dick.
Right. Really solid Dick this week.
Was it? How solid was it,
Not
Matt?
far enough?
How solid was
Very
it?
solid.
Very
It was
solid.
a 10. Well, for me and Connor, it was a 10. For you, it was a little bit softer. I broke Pete.
I wasn't sure that's what you were going to say. I thought you were going to say. I thought you were talking inches. I was like, that's just 9.5.
Yeah.
No.
It's not very impressive by any standard, but
Not the full 10, is it?
Hey, what's coming out next week?
Matt's uncomfortable.
Yeah, very.
He's very uncomfortable with this.
Yeah, but
this
I
TikTok.
thought like I'll go be this far beyond the line. Nobody else will join me, and then we can get back to normal. But no, y'all are like, no, I can go further.
Okay, so coming next week for DC Comics, we have Detective Comics 1034, start of Tamaki's run, super exciting. Action Comics 1029, the start, kind of Johnson's run, although it's actually part 2 of the story that started in Superman, so it's kind of the second part of his Superman run overall. Regardless, Action Comics is coming next week.
Yeah.
Batman Superman 16, Gene Yang on there. Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn issue 6, which I think is the last issue of that mini. We'll be trying Teen Titans Academy issue 1. Obviously, we're skeptical given the future state issues, but hey. Also next week, Batman Black and White issue 4 and Harley Quinn issue 1, so the start of the Harley Quinn book. Which
man, bummed out. I wanna read Stephanie Phillips Harley, but I don't want to deal with the Rosmo art. So
are either of you two not trying Harley Quinn, even though?
No.
Okay.
And no surprises.
You want me to try a Rosmo book for free?
Yeah.
You like Harley Quinn?
Not that much.
Although I think we found an answer to a book that if they want Connor to read it.
Shut up.
It could be like it's like an existential crisis every time he reads it, because he'll love the writing, but he'll hate the art, and he'll be like, oh,
yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
what I'm worried about.
I want to praise it, but I want to hate it. I want to praise it, but I want to hate it. So yeah, a few new things starting next week in terms of runs, and we'll see how it goes. But that's what's coming next week. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Sandy Palacios, David Sharp, Board Now, Al Treisman, Christopher Moy, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are our Patreon producers. But you can support us for as little as $1 per month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some perks for your troubles. Most notably for the Comics Podcast at the $5 tier, you do get access to the show a day early, and you get access to Previously in the Multiverse, which is the sister show that me and Connor do, working through some old DC runs. You get that a month early now, and that seems to be going out about every other week right now. That seems to be the schedule it's sort of comfortably fallen into. So go check out that if you wish. But that is that. You can also support us for free by simply hitting the like button on YouTube and commenting, subscribing. Those things help out on YouTube a ton. For the audio version, of course, you can share it out on Twitter. We're at DC Comics Podcast, specifically, if you want to, follow us on there. But you can also rate the show on iTunes or whatever your podcast app is. Give it 5 stars. Those things do help spread the show around, so please do. And there you go. That's pretty much all of the. I'll just remind you once again to make sure you submit your own entries into the top 50 DC characters of all time. for celebrating the celebrating the 250th episode next month. You've got all March to get your entries in. There's a link to the entry form in the description of the show. You can also get it on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast. So there you go. I think that's all my plugging. Successfully done.
There you go.
It is time to feast. I am so hungry. So thank you once again for joining us here on Comics from the Multiverse, episode 245. We love you dearly. So keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
And friends, don't let friends film in 4:3.